Three Grots in a Vox is intended for a mature audience. This means there will be crude language and discussions of adult themes, especially if we're talking about Tactical Marines or Gabriel Seth. Viewer discretion is not only advised but encouraged. All opinions are our own and often given for humorous purposes. Any advice is given largely for entertainment purposes and would probably be ignored. But if you do learn something useful, count it as a win.
Greetings, army of Grots. We've got a bad feeling about this week's video. And Tony, I thought you were dead.
It's a rumour. Not a real gun. Before we go any further, not real. It's a toy.
Yeah, that definitely needed saying. People thought we were going to get a real gun in the
someone
UK.
Will.
Here.
There'll be someone there that sends some complaint or something and says, I saw a public servant on the television with...
Let's do it. What do you think we are? Americans? We don't have real guns here.
Thank goodness we don't. But that's a whole other conversation, isn't it?
Then when I was playing with it,
yeah,
it was real.
That's going to be a whole other episode. Let's not go there.
I've got a prop. I thought if we were going to go with this, when we should really sort of lean into the theme. Mm-hmm. So I went to the shop and I bought the most American beer I could find.
That is a very American, yeah. Bud Light. Twist off caps.
Hello and welcome everybody to this new episode of Three Grots in a Vox, which is a Patreon request. Tonight we will be tier listing. We haven't tier listed in a very long time, so we've been sort of looking forward to this. And tonight we will be tier listing 80s movies by request of our Patreon Maverick. Thank you very much, Maverick. So yeah, we've got.
I'm excited. I'm so excited.
Why?
80s movie, like they just don't make movies like they did in the 80s anymore, do they?
We got a list of almost 30 movies nominated by the three of us and by Mav.
I thought you said 29 movies.
Yeah, so I said almost 30. 29 is almost 30. Are you a teacher? What do you teach?
I've only got one eye. It means I'm not.
I see. Fair enough.
If you see me squinting at the screen, I ain't drunk off of these. Believe me.
Yet. No, probably won't be.
I need a lot more than the ones I bought today, but. Yeah, I've got contact lenses in. I've got the lights in my face, and I can see nothing.
Okay. God. Well, then he says move along.
Yeah. So just to explain the tiers, I'd like to think they're fairly self-explanatory. Every film on this list is on there because it's been recommended by someone, so none of them are shit. Well, all of them are shit, but we like them anyway, so whatever. The top one is S tier, so good you've bought it on VHS, you put it on DVD, you put it on Blu-ray, you put it on digital, and we're going to buy it again at some point. You're that much of a super fan. A tier is basically everything that's being said in the film, and you'll talk along with it. When she says "get away from her, you bitch," yeah.
The inside and the outside of this bottle taste exactly the same.
Is it cold?
Well, it's cold.
Okay.
There's like basically no difference between the condensation on this bottle and the contents of this bottle.
That's the one redeeming feature of it. It's cold.
There's an indictment of American beer for you. B tier is not quite as good as A. We'd be disappointed if a friend tells us they've not seen it. It's a bit, really? You want to go and watch that? Yeah. C tier, you liked it, but it was not the best film in the world, but it was fun enough. And D tier, you might spare it a couple hours of your time to watch it free on streaming, but you wouldn't go out your way. So.
Awesome.
That's what the tiers we're working towards are. After Tony was going to do them, and then I stuck my oar in, and Tony told me to do it my fucking self, so I did it my fucking self. There we go. Brilliant.
My tiers were much better.
The tiers are good. Both sets of tiers are good. So yes.
All right, let's kick straight into it and talk shit about Aliens, which was also one of Maverick's nominated picks. Aliens is the second film in the series, and it's fucking awesome, frankly.
Yeah, I was going to say, I just want to pull up what year each of these movies was as we get into it. So Aliens, I think, was 1986, right? Yes, 1986. Okay. And, I mean, since it's been released, there's been various special editions. There's been cuts with, I don't know, like 15 extra minutes. I think you can get it on Blu-ray now. You can't get it on 4K yet.
Can you not?
No, because if I could get it on 4K, I'd have honestly bought it.
Well, I've got it. I'm sure I've got it on Blu-ray, but I don't.
Yes. The extended edition is. This is one of my favourite movies.
So I'm not much of a fan of horror movies normally, so I skipped the first one. But Aliens, somebody told me, was far more like an action film, so I watched it.
It's almost like a Vietnam kind of war film. The way that this whole thing sort of plays out. Instead of the jungle, you're sort of moving through the atmospheric processing plant.
Yeah,
it's brilliant. It's got as many one-liners as we need. The hair is big. The shoulder pads are present.
It's absolutely iconic. Sigourney Weaver's a goddess. Newt's amazing.
I think the Marines...
It's 80s enough that it's got a child in it.
Yeah.
Because that was a key factor of all good 80s movies. Needed a random child that wasn't necessarily there for the plot.
And no more Aliens films made afterwards.
Yeah, that's the redeeming feature, yeah.
I don't think that's entirely fair, because each one of these films is a product of its time. This, like I say, it's a Vietnam War film. It's an action movie. The first one, late 70s, it was a real kind of horror film. The third one, you got that sort of early 90s.
The prison film thing.
This kind of prison film thing. And then you got the later 90s, Alien Resurrection, which really lent into that campy, cheesy silliness.
And it's got Ron Perlman in it. Ron Perlman's good.
Yeah, you got Batman Forever. You got Batman and Robin. You had all the kind of like the really goofy superhero movies that sort of really emphasized that period in the 90s. So each film is kind of a snapshot of the era that it was made in. This is just the best one.
Yeah, this was the best one. Bill Paxton's character is hilarious throughout. Like you said, he has so many good one-liners. The one that always stands out to me is when they're on the ship and she gives them the briefing, like it's a real serious briefing, and then at the end of the briefing he's just like, "Sir, how do I get out of this chicken shit outfit?" And it's just like, there's just so many.
Stay in the core.
I don't know. How can you think that that's better than we should nuke the site from orbit?
Well, true. There's just so many good. This is going to be a pretty spoilery. If you've not seen these movies,
I think the statute of limitations on spoilers on the films that were out 40 years ago is
okay?
Is kind of past at this point. Yeah.
That's actually fucking mental. It's almost 40 years. Okay, so 37 years ago, arguably to me, still one of the best action movies that's ever been made. If they do a 4K remaster of it, I will buy it in a heartbeat. So I'd put it in S. It's one of my favourites.
Fair enough. Tony, what do you think? Where would you rank Aliens? Yeah?
Yeah, it's S.
I've not bought it on any formats, but I've watched it a few times and I know most of the quotes by now. So that's why I kind of just stuck it straight away in A. But if you both saying it is S...
Our very first episode, what's it, Pile of Glory,
yeah,
with me talking about the Aliens board game.
Oh yeah, that's very true.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I still not played that. Damn COVID. Maybe we can play it on stream when you guys come up.
Yeah, it'd be lovely.
The queue of things we're going to do when we come up and visit you is growing by the
Chalk
week.
off a week.
Fucking hell. It's going to be a mental week. Yeah, all right, cool. We'll put that in S tier, which takes us to the next one, which is Back to the Future. Christopher Lloyd and Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, arguably Michael J. Fox's best work, I guess.
What? You think Teen Wolf was better?
No, I mean, like, this is his best movie. The first one's probably the best of the three. I loved this movie when I was a kid. I mean, I've probably seen it like 50 times, honestly.
Yeah, it's awesome. Christopher Lloyd in it is amazing. It's so cool. The music in it was great. The soundtrack's wonderful. I'm not so sure about 2 and 3. They were fun, but they lacked the sort of the magic the first one had. I'll agree with that.
Yeah, I recently bought a special edition of this on Blu-ray. It came with like a vinyl, for the original soundtrack, which is awesome as well, by the way. So,
the Power of Love, Go Johnny Go.
Yeah, the Power of Love. Back in Time as well was popular right at the end.
Tony being really quiet with this one. Have you not seen it or something?
No, I just don't like it that much.
Ooh.
Don't
Contentious.
get me wrong, it's a classic.
Contentious.
It's an absolute classic, and I know loads of people love it. And it's got some things going for it. You know, it's got big hair, it's got big shoulder pads, it's got a big puffy jacket thing, which is amazing. And the DeLorean in it, and DeLoreans are cool. Not just because of this film, because of the ridiculous story that goes around them.
Yeah.
But there's two things I don't like about this movie. One, the time travel doesn't work properly. And two, he almost has sex with his own mum.
Sorry, why does the time travel not work properly?
Oh, God.
It's to do with causality. But
So what form of time travel is the correct form, Tony?
none of them. But it doesn't work.
At least in their form of time travel, you saw, like, you know, shit that they did is actually affecting the future.
The big problem with it is it either would or wouldn't. And if it did, it would immediately happen, and therefore none of this would happen and the movie wouldn't happen. Or it wouldn't affect it until time tried to go back again, which is the whole idea of creating parallel streams of time. So either something would happen, and then there was no point in having a movie because it just end, or nothing would happen at all.
So if it's got time travel in it,
because, you know, I'm sitting there trying to teach kids about quantum, and then I've got this shit, and they're using this as an example.
So the film's got time travel in it, that immediately crosses the line and makes it bad. But if a film's got spaceships and aliens and facehuggers and...
Well, we don't know what's going to happen in the future.
To be fair, Back to the Future does have Darth Vader in it. I don't know if you remember that part.
What? James Earl Jones?
When Marty comes back and he's dressed
David
up
Prowse?
No, neither. When Marty comes back and he's dressed up in, like, his atom suit or whatever it was called, you know, his radiation suit when he got out the DeLorean at the start.
Yeah.
He went back to scare his father, and he put headphones on him, and he said he was Darth Vader from the future.
But
Trust me,
I've
seen that movie a lot of times.
It's just time travel's done better in other places.
Sure.
And I'm already biased against it.
Because I remember that obscure thing with Darth Vader, I would put it in A.
Well,
I love this
we'll come back to time travel later in this list, because shockingly it's going to crop up somewhere else at least once.
I would be disappointed if a friend that hasn't seen it, and I would watch it anytime it's on television. If it's flipped to a channel, Back to the Future's on, I would leave it on.
Yeah, I've stuck it in B because that's kind of where I'd place it straight away. I wouldn't say I've memorised it, but I enjoy it. If a friend hasn't seen it or dislikes it, then I would be a little disappointed in them. But yeah, that's kind of where I am. Whereas Tony, it sounds like, would place it off the bottom of this tier list.
No, it'd be in the bin with all the other films where people try and seduce their own mothers.
Okay, so B.
Right.
Two B's and a D.
Yeah, fair enough. We'll compromise on that one.
I think we're going to have to compromise on the majority
override the physics teacher. Next up is Batman. Michael Keaton, Batman. Jack Nicholson as the Joker. Another fucking iconic movie. So good.
Batman was out.
Late 80s, I think. My wife keeps talking about how it was all hyped up at the time, and I just remember the Batmobile toy and the Batwing toy, and they were cool because I was like in single digits during the 80s.
Yeah, me too. It was 89. And you're right, it was Michael Keaton and...
It was Tim Burton, wasn't it? Tim Burton directed.
Yeah, Tim Burton directed. Danny Elfman doing the soundtrack, which...
I'm going to go out on a limb with
such
this.
Iconic Batman music.
And I'm going to say this is the best Batman film.
I appreciate the argument
that needed to be in a Batman film. It had Tim Burton's, because it was proper Batman as well. It was a bit weird and it was a bit quirky and the world was strange.
Yeah.
Whereas like a lot of the modern Batmans have either gone too dark or too realistic. And it took it too far in the mid-90s when it went mega camp. You know, I would argue you could say that, you know, Adam West was the best Batman, but I'm sorry, I like the power and I like the purple, but this was the best Batman movie. Jack Nicholson was scary as Joker. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
it was really good. No, go on, John. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think a lot of people would agree with Tony's sentiment that this was the best Batman movie. I'm looking at...
Returns wasn't as good.
Yeah, I'd say it's one of the best. He's as a colossal fucking Batman fan. But I wouldn't say it was the best, but I also admit and understand that that's just a matter of personal taste.
Yeah, I really
love this
Batman
one
film because I thought that Patterson.
Robert Pattinson.
Robert Patterson was a shit Bruce Wayne. He was just too moody.
Granted,
he didn't get that whole smiling in public, dark and broody in secret thing.
He did
was
the
just
director.
fucking everywhere.
Sorry, not director. He did the detective side of Batman really, really well, though, which then gotten across in the Hollywood films prior to that one.
Yeah, and I liked the Batman Begins. I thought that one was good.
Yeah,
but again, bit controversial. I didn't like the second of the Christian Bale movies.
You did not like the Heath Ledger as a Joker movie.
No, but the problem with it was that Heath Ledger made a great Joker, but his tragic suicide kind of overshadowed the whole thing. The movie was too long. If the movie was just Heath Ledger was a great Joker, but I personally preferred Jack Nicholson. I liked the tone he played on it more. But then we had that whole thing on the end with Two-Face, and it just wasn't necessary. They could have just ended with the Joker on a bit of a downer, I know, but that would have been a good ending. Made the film a bit shorter, and I think the film would have been better for it. It just felt bloated.
Okay, I appreciate your opinion. I think you're wrong, but I appreciate it.
It's been a long...
Yeah, I couldn't understand what Tom Hardy was saying as Bane.
Yeah,
the third one in that series is definitely the weakest. It was all right, but it wasn't the best.
I enjoyed all three, but
plus Hans Zimmer's soundtracks for those three was again fucking stunning, in a different way to Elfman's, but still very, very good.
I think this was possibly the best Batman. A lot of people think it's the best Batman movie. Getting back to that, it's been a long time since I've seen it, like 10+ years. So I'm going to defer to where you guys want to put it.
It's the most comic booky for me, and that's why it feels, but in a good way, and that's why I think it's the best one.
Fair enough. I've stuck it again for my initial thought as to where I'd put it. Where do you get all those wonderful toys? You have a dance of the devil in the pale moonlight, all this sort of stuff. I can memorize and say back most of the stuff in there, but I don't own it on many formats because I haven't felt the need to, really.
I've got it on Blu-ray, I've got it on DVD, and I've got it on streaming.
Okay, fair enough.
So you happy with E?
No, put it in S.
Oh, right, okay.
Absolute S-tier film.
What do you reckon, John? Casting vote?
I can't. It's been over a decade, really. Maybe even 20 years since I've seen it.
So where would you place it, then?
I mean, I enjoyed it, but I don't remember enough of it.
Okay, so... sounds like a C tier for you, I guess.
Yeah, it's a C or... yeah, I mean, I guess just I think... I'm not a huge comic book movie guy.
Okay.
So probably a B.
Should we compromise to A? Across the three of us?
Yeah, or
we
just...
we got an S, A, and a B. It kind of makes sense.
I think go with what you guys... So leave it an A, I think. And you might move it up or down depending on where other things land.
All right, no worries. If at any point, you guys, if you're watching the premiere of this, or you got any thoughts about what we're saying, or you think we're talking complete bollocks, or you want to disagree with any of this stuff,
we're absolutely talking bollocks. We
put it in the chat
in any way.
Put it in the comments. Give us your opinions. We absolutely
I'm wearing an
want
eye
to hear
patch.
all of these opinions.
I mean, you get points for effort for tonight, Tony. So
yeah.
that's awesome.
I mean, I totally forgot that we were supposed to be doing a costume thing and just grab.
I missed that, I guess.
My LARP safe katana from
completely
around
missed
the corner,
costumes
because there's a katana in one of the 80s movies that we're gonna do, and if you can't guess what it is, then you possibly shouldn't be watching this video. Next up then is Beverly Hills Cop with
Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy as Axel Foley, with another iconic piece of soundtrack music for that one.
Yes, the song that got remixed into the Crazy Frog or something, isn't it?
It's been
Yeah,
remixed
Crazy
into
Frog
a million
did.
different things.
I loved this movie, but
I love the movie, but I hate the Crazy Frog.
It's been like, it's even longer than Batman, so it's like 25 years since I've seen this.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it again. Actually, you know what? I might put it in D based on that.
I own it on DVD, Blu-ray, and digital.
Oh, fucking hell. All right, so right up to the S tier for Tony then. Okay.
Nah, put it in the bin. No, it's not. That's not fair. It's a good movie. I like Eddie Murphy movies. It's a buddy cop movie that makes it classic 80s.
There's a point where Eddie Murphy just climbed up his own arse, really, wasn't there? After
Yeah, but this was after. It was after this.
Oh, it was
like
way
when he
after.
started doing
this,
like
yeah.
Norbert and all that weird shit.
Yeah.
And the
I think
Nutty
the last-
Professor and
I think the last funny movie that I actually laughed in that he was in was Disney's Mulan, where he voiced the little dragon.
Oh yeah, I was going to say he was in Shrek.
Actually, yeah, right. He was good in
He
Shrek.
was good as Donkey.
Yeah,
but
So
then
he
again,
was actually-
wasn't on screen, was he? I think that's important.
yeah, that's a
That's
fair point.
important. The donkey is basically the same character he plays in Mulan, though. You know that, right?
And real life.
Because he's basically only got one character, doesn't he?
So yeah, see, it's fine.
Oh, Golden Child was another film he was in that I really, really enjoyed, which had Charles Dance in it from Game of Thrones. Anyway, moving on. Where should we stick Beverly Hills Cop? I'd probably put it in D personally, because yeah, it was fun, but I wouldn't go out of my way to watch it again unless it was free and a couple hours to kill.
Yeah, I'm there as well.
Eddie Murphy's hair's too small. Put it in D.
Right. Okay. I like the logic there. That makes perfect sense. Next up, we have Big Trouble in Little China. I
Put it in
mean,
A.
you probably can't really see the
No,
icon
A.
there
What we're talking
very
about, S.
easily. And well,
Up.
yeah, up. Okay.
It's the greatest movie ever made.
Excellent. Cool. Right. Tell us about Big Trouble in Little China, then, Tony.
Well, it's now. I'm going to say this now because we're not going to get into it too much. There's not a huge. We've not put all of Carpenter in this tier list because, frankly, all of Carpenter was awesome in the 80s. Even some of the weirder ones that he did, and every movie he did had its own kind of bit of a spin on it. And the fantastic thing about this movie was the humor wasn't just about the one-liners and the silliness. You know, it's like the fact that the whole movie goes by and you've got Kurt Russell, who I love Kurt Russell.
Really?
Goes the whole movie
Really?
waving his guns
wouldn't have thought.
around, being all threatening and stuff, and being utterly useless until the last 10. I'm absolute spoiler in this. He only kills one person in the entire movie, and it's the big bad guy. Every other combat sequence in the entire film, he falls over, gets caught out, misses, or something along those lines. And it was just so superbly done that it just blew my mind at the time. The whole Pork Chop Express. I've got a Pork Chop Express sticker on the back of my car.
So I'd heard about this, but I never watched it at all. It just didn't appeal to me until a few years ago when it was on Netflix. I watched it for the first time and I went, "Oh, that's quite fun."
Yeah,
And
it's
then
got some
moved on with
really
my
silly
life.
stuff, but
It
in
was
the best
batshit crazy.
possible way. And it's a bit of a satire of so many different genres of movie. And I think that makes it a little bit special because a lot of the other Carpenter stuff really lent heavily into being an action movie, being a horror movie.
So
And
say
this one
things
just
like
sort of lampooned the whole thing.
say things like Kung Fu Hustle might owe a lot to this, or am I? Or
Yeah, Kung Fu Hustle's got a similar tone in a lot of ways, and that's another great movie. That was a bit later. So yeah, it's about the fact that it was a satire done right. Yeah, we could have we put Hot Shots in this or not?
Hot Shots is not in this list
Because that's another one that did satire properly.
Yeah, nobody
Oh,
nominated Hot Shots.
And the soundtrack's phenomenal.
It's true. It's true. You're not saying much about this one, John. You seen this one?
Yes, but I mean, I guess I watched most of these movies when I was like in my teens, so this one is barely ringing. Like I remember like a couple of fight scenes, but that's it. So I can't. I guess it.
The fact that he goes the whole movie, like the last 20 minutes of the movie with lipstick on.
I don't remember that detail.
I have a few 80s movies I'm going to be passionate about, and when they come up, I'm going to let you know. So in this one, I'll defer to you guys.
Fair enough. I'd put this in C because it was fun, and that's about it for me.
I own this on DVD, Blu-ray, special edition Blu-ray, 4K upgraded version, and all the comic books and tie-in toys. And that shirt.
Okay, and he's got the eye patch on, so give him some bonus points for that.
That's for a different film. That's not for this film.
Still
That's a different
Carpenter and
film.
still Kurt Russell, though.
It's still, yeah, exactly. And that film I
So
do
yeah,
know.
it's an absolute S. It's one of my favourite films of all time.
All right.
Although it annoys the piss out of my wife.
I can see that, to be honest. Would you compromise it down to a B, or would you
No.
accept no less than an A?
No less than an S.
All right, okay. A it is. Then.
Okay.
Fair enough. What's this one? Bill and Ted. And
Excellent.
their excellent adventure. Another fucking awesome movie. Have any of you guys seen the third one they did a couple of years ago?
Yeah,
I
I
did
didn't
see
like
the
it.
third one.
It was all right. It wasn't great.
It was all right. Yeah.
It wasn't
I felt they tried to
modernise
modernise it and it didn't need modernising. They should have just left it with Bogus Journey.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
I think they were past it for Bill and Ted, but I mean, I still enjoyed the third one. I don't know if you guys know this, but in Universal Studios in Florida, for I don't know, like 20 years during Halloween, they do this thing called Halloween Horror Nights, and they had like a live Bill and Ted show. And they only just retired it like 2 or 3 years ago now, but like it was a thing that they did every Halloween, and I've been to a couple of them because we used to own a house. My father used to own a house in Florida, and it was awesome. And I mean, it's just the vibe of the first movie. I've seen this movie a lot. I'm surprised I actually don't own it on DVD, and I don't remember that much dialogue, but I think I would like it to be an A. I really enjoyed Bill and Ted, the first one. The other two are, you can leave them.
I didn't mind Bogus Journey. I thought the whole thing with death was quite fun. The third one of the things that really got me with the third one is the way they weirdly swapped the gender of the children.
Oh, that was quite weird, yeah.
It was just weird. It wouldn't have mattered if I didn't know the first film so well.
I thought the characters of the kids did all right. I think they played okay. They were definitely worthwhile watching.
It's just weird.
Whereas the first one is obviously iconic. Saying that you've memorised most of the dialogue doesn't mean very much because most of the dialogue is a pair of them going, "Excellent!"
Yeah. Rad, dude. Yeah, so
Princess
I think
babes.
Does anyone want it not to be an A?
No, it's an S.
Okay. So Tony's like, everything's either an S or a D and nowhere in between.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I'd put it in A because I don't own it on many formats, but I thought it was fun and I know it really, really well.
I've got it on Blu-ray and DVD. I don't own the digital streaming version and I don't own the deluxe special edition.
All right, I'll put it in S because I did really enjoy the follow-ups and yeah, I mean, I would watch this if it was ever on. Yeah, now that we talk about it, I feel like I need to own it.
Fair enough. Bill and Ted up there with Aliens, above Batman and Big Trouble in Little China. All right, next up is another. Well, all of these I think are fucking iconic films. We have Blade Runner.
Put it in S.
All right, we'll put it in S while we discuss it. How's
I own the special edition.
So do I.
I got the Blu-ray version with the car. Is that the version you got?
One with the car? I don't have one with the car.
It came with like a model of his car.
No, I've got I've got a few versions of this one because, of course, Ridley Scotted it a little bit when he started making he had the theatrical cut and then the extended director's cut, and then there was like a third version of the director's cut. He George Lucased it a little bit, you know, when he just kept changing things all the time, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
It's
do
an incredible
any
film.
of you know the final speech off by heart? What he says on the roof or anything like that?
Well, the whole Orion's Gate stuff.
Yeah. I've seen things you wouldn't believe. Time to die.
Fires off the
Tannhauser Gate.
Tannhauser Gate, yeah.
Yeah.
Fires off the bow of the Tannhauser Gate or something, wasn't it? But it was
the crazy little guy who went around making those little origami things and leaving them, the detective. He also played Admiral Bill Adama in Battlestar Galactica series.
Oh, I did not realise that.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
Does some really good stuff. But anyway,
miserable.
Blade Runner.
Proper Battlestar was the one in the 70s.
We can have an argument on that one. That'll take. We
We need a tier list on science fiction TV shows because
and a whole tier for Star Wars series, which will be another episode.
I'm watching.
Yeah, I think Blade Runner is definitely a classic.
I mean, there is arguments about it being more of a cinematography thing rather than a storyline thing, but I don't think that's fair. And the three most important measures are one-liners and quotability. It's right up there. The size of shoulder pads, they're huge, and the size of the hair, it's fucking magnificent.
And
if we really want a bonus point, Vangelis soundtrack and that trench coat was iconic. And that gun, which I haven't got, but I want one. They're really expensive.
I own multiple versions of it from like this cut and that cut, but I've only ever bought it once. So based on that, I'd have to put it on A.
Steal the other ones then.
What? No, I bought like a version of it on Blu-ray or DVD that came with different cuts on 2 different discs in the same box.
It says that there's 7 versions of this film, and the final cut is the only version that Ridley Scott retained artistic control over.
I didn't like it because that's the one where he decided to sort of like imply that Deckard was a replicant. And that whole weird unicorn thing.
I don't know which cut I have, but
did they say he was a replicant in?
Yeah, because they do that whole thing of
in the sequel.
Yeah,
no, because
in the sequel they binned that off.
Yeah, the daughter was a child of replicant human.
Yeah, but the final version of Blade Runner had him as a replicant, and that was just weird. The theatrical one had him as a human, and the final Ridley Scott one had him implied as a replicant. And the little guy who was following around with the origami and that knew this the whole way through. It was kind of almost his handler.
Yeah, fair enough.
And it was just, I think it made it worse, actually.
You can put the sword down now if you want, Mark.
I can. It's beginning to get annoying, so I might.
I was going to say, it looks like it's getting heavy.
Got rid of your. It's not heavy. It's really, really light. It's just like resting in an awkward spot on my back. So there we go. Whatever.
Yeah, I got rid of my Stormtrooper.
Woohoo!
Why'd you get rid of your Stormtrooper? There he is.
He'll be back. He's waiting for his movie. He's waiting for his movie. Speaking of Obi-Wan Kenobi, #5 last night. That was good.
It really pisses me off that they take to like the final episode or episodes of a series before making it really awesome. So you got.
Oh yeah, but well, they want to sell you the next season. That's how this shit works with streaming.
They should get you invested in it right at the very start.
They can't blow their budgets at the start. That's the way it's going to go.
All right, blow their budget basically getting Ewan McGregor
and Hayden. Although Hayden was probably quite cheap. I'd put Blade Runner in an A. Because that's me, but obviously Tony's straight to an S. John,
easily an S.
A or S. For
one of the greatest films ever made of any decade.
Yes, I mean, speaking of it, it makes me want to watch it now. I'm going to actually watch some 80s movies this weekend.
I mean, off the back of filming this, yeah, absolutely. I can see this happening.
I watched every movie on the list, unless you've tweaked it before we filmed this.
There's a few that I haven't seen on this list, but I've seen all these so far. And the next one is Arnie as Conan the Barbarian.
His first movie. What is good in life?
What is best in life?
Oh, shit. It's been a while. To see the lamentations of their women.
To drive your enemies before you.
Yeah.
And to hear the lamentations of their women.
I have this
the whole flesh and steel thing, which was just weird but awesome.
Yep. And it had Darth Vader in it as the bad guy as well. James Earl Jones
creepy.
as the bad guy.
Big snake.
Yep.
And Arnie's English was so bad.
They just cut all his lines, didn't they?
I believe this is the first movie he spoke English in.
Yeah.
And I guess I think the movie that came out after this was Terminator, where he had like 5 words.
I actually watched the Conan sequel before I saw this. And I watched Red Sonja before I saw the Conan sequel, which is a weird order to watch all this stuff in.
Red Sonja's good, though. I've got because, again, massive nerd, I've got a big chunk of the comic books that these were based on, and the Red Sonja comic books. I didn't like the modern remake of Conan, though.
Haven't seen it.
You can't beat Arnie. The new guy's too skinny.
Jason Momoa.
Did they do a modern
compared to Arnie?
I know they did a video game of it that.
They did. That had the best feature ever, didn't it?
Did it?
You could adjust the size of your penis. Had a slider for penis size in the Conan online game.
Okay. I do remember the Conan online game being very strange.
And coded ball physics.
Oh, Christ.
So that means that somebody at some point.
Ball physics is not surprising to the degree boob jiggle physics exists in video games these days.
Yeah,
well, I mean, they Red Dead Redemption 2, don't they? They really went to town making sure that the horses were really realistic. But the fact they did it in an MMO for no apparent reason.
Well, they made it an MMO to sell the MMO because the rest of the game was shit.
It was. Maybe if they spent less time making you adjust your length and girth, you could have made a better video game.
Conan for me, I guess. I love Arnie, but I actually own it, but I haven't seen it in a long time. I would put it somewhere like C. I guess I kind of liked it. I didn't think it was anything special.
I'd put it in C as well, to be honest, yeah, for the same sort of reason. It was enjoyable, but it wasn't much more than that to me. It wasn't really massively meaningful. Tony, do you want it in S tier?
Obviously.
Yeah, thought so.
Are you serious?
Moving the wrong thing. There we
This
go.
is why my tier list was better. It only had 2 tiers. Put it in the bin or put it in S.
Right, okay.
Okay.
Fair enough. Next one up is The Dark Crystal, which was a Jim Henson puppet fantasy movie about some gelflings who had to save the world from these weird sort of skexy bird creatures who'd taken over the world and were sucking the life out of the little gelfling creatures. And I don't think either of you recommended this, so I've got no idea if either of you have seen this.
I have, but it's not as good as Labyrinth.
I've not seen it.
That's fair. You've not seen it?
No.
I tell you what was good about it, and this is going off topic.
Yeah.
But the Kickstarter a little while ago, Broken Toad made a set of busts that went with Dark Crystal, and they were phenomenal. They were beautiful.
The Netflix prequel to it is really good. They got some really good cast to do the Skeksis voices.
They did.
I thought it was very well done.
But I just don't really like the movie that much.
For me, it's like iconic, archetypal fantasy film. It's very formative for me. I'll agree that I never liked it.
It was Jim Henson, and Jim Henson productions are always incredible for their puppetry. But I thought the story was a bit whatever. Okay,
fair enough. I don't say I've memorised the dialogue. I loved it. I'd watch it again. I'd be disappointed if anybody's not seen it, John. So I'd put it fairly solidly in B personally. John's not seen it, so that's obviously not helpful in where he's going to put it. Tony, where do you think it deserves to go?
No shoulder pads and not as good as Labyrinth, so put it in the bin.
So I think leave it where you have it. There's so many other good 80s movies that I'm going to want to watch now, so I don't know how I'm going to fit in any new ones, but we'll see.
Fair enough. All right. What's next we got? Oh, there's not a little iconic film there at all. Bruce Willis is the only Christmas movie worth watching.
Yo ho ho, I've got a machine gun. Is it a Christmas movie? Yes or no?
Of course it's a Christmas movie.
Thank you. Everybody thinks it's a Christmas movie. So me and my wife have this thing where we literally watch this movie or Die Hard 2 every year.
My sister had never seen it up until a couple of years ago, and our local cinema was showing it in the big screen, so I took her out to go and watch it. And yeah, it's totally a Christmas film. Great fun.
And it's got its fair share of one-liners, like "Welcome to the party, pal," as he drops what is it, like a dead body out the window into the police car.
Yeah.
Yeah, yippee-ki-yay.
That one.
It's a proper one. It's got big hair. It's got big shoulder pads. It's got one-liners. It's the best Christmas. Do you know, I've got a buddy, and he never watches our videos, so he won't care that I'm telling you this story. But I've got a friend, and his whole family have die-hard Christmas jumpers. And every year, this is like even the extended ones, because now he's got kids and that as well. The whole family come together to watch Die Hard together in their Christmas jumpers and quote it to each other.
So for me, it is a Christmas movie, but for me, it is not the Christmas movie.
Absolutely,
for me,
is
the Christmas movie is The Muppets Christmas Carol.
Okay.
That is the Christmas movie that always has to be watched on Christmas Eve for me.
I have a soft
Remember that episode of Friends where they watch Die Hard, then they accidentally re-rent Die Hard, and then they're going to like, oh, if it was Die Hard 2, oh, well, we'll just re-watch Die Hard again.
I own Die Hard on 4K.
Yeah, I do as well.
I would put it in S.
But I'm going to say it stopped after the second one.
We're just talking about the first one. Pretend the others aren't irrelevant.
Yeah, it stopped.
Actually, that new one that had the guy, like, yeah, that was weird. The guy from, like, American Pie or something, wasn't it?
I don't think I've seen the new one.
There's a bit where he fires a car into a helicopter.
Oh no, you're one Die Hard behind. That's Die Hard 4. They made 5.
I haven't watched 2 or 3. I've watched 4 because they shot the car off the overpass into a helicopter, and that was
physics says no. That was stupid.
I mean, if you want to base it on physics, then literally everything out of Hollywood is stupid, Tony.
Yes.
No, it doesn't affect Blade Runner.
Does it affect a flux capacitor? That's my real question.
There's a flux, right? Flux, I think it's a function of magnets. Okay, so we talk about magnetic flux. So you can't restore. Well, you can store magnetic, I suppose, force in a magnet. So wouldn't a flux capacitor just be an induced magnet? So, like,
they required uranium-238 that you stole off the Russians. Remember?
And do you know what? If we're talking one-liners,
until he worked out how to fuel it off bananas.
If we're talking one-liners, then Back to the Future actually has the best one-liner, possibly out of all the movies, when he says, "When this baby gets to 88 miles an hour, you're gonna see some serious shit."
Where we're going, we don't need roads. Anyway, sorry, different film.
I would put Die Hard in S. I would watch
I'd put
that
Die Hard in
movie.
S.
I'd
One
put
of
it
the
in
greatest
A,
action films ever.
However you want it in S, we'll go with S. That seems reasonable to me. We couldn't put both Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back in here because it would result in an argument over the two of them. So in the end, I've executively decided that we're just going with Empire Strikes Back.
That's a good choice. That's the best one.
It's the best one.
Obviously. I mean, what the fuck can we say about Empire Strikes Back? It's a legend.
You could say it's an
more
S.
legendary than almost all of these.
It's the best Star Wars film. I mean, I argue that everything after Jedi didn't happen. Just didn't happen.
That's another episode. That is definitely another episode. So we're gonna have to educate you on that because there is some good stuff after Jedi.
But
Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds.
Just because you haven't experienced it doesn't mean that there isn't non-shit stuff after Jedi. But
tell me, have either of you guys seen when Family Guy did the remake of the? I love the bit when he's like, "Fire the giant nipple guns."
Yes,
which is the ion cannon. And I believe in Empire Strikes Back. I mean, Vader's been good in the new Obi-Wan series, but Empire Strikes Back was like, if the commander did anything slightly wrong, Vader just murdered him in front of the entire ship. Snapped his neck and then promoted the next guy. He's just standing there, seeing his commander get his head snapped. He's like, Captain Piet, you're now Admiral or some shit, you know? And it's just like, it's just a brutal movie. There's so many good bits in it. Introduces
and the changes they made when they remastered it weren't that bad, actually. I thought they
weren't
actually
too
added
egregious.
to it.
They didn't do anything
when they
weird.
gave Cloud City a lot more sort of look and feel to it.
They give the Wampa more life.
I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. I've got this on VHS as well. I've got the original VHS, and then I've got the deluxe special edition VHS, the one that came out in the late 90s.
Yeah, I've got that in the gold wrapper.
Yeah, I had a set of 3 videos in the box with them.
Yeah, I had those, but I've since got rid of them. I do own the original pre-remastered version on DVD, which I'm very proud of owning, and that will stay in my collection forever. Frankly.
Do you know what? I bought the Blu-rays of all 6 movies right before Disney took over.
Yeah. And
at the time, like when Disney were coming out, and I was like, "Oh fuck! I should have waited. I should have got all 9." But now I'm actually quite happy. I've just got the 6. I'm like, "This is Star Wars."
You got you're
better off with 5, and even better off with 3.
But I was going to say something else about Empire. Yeah, the other thing that they did, they introduced the Emperor for the first time because you never saw him in A New Hope.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So it gave the franchise more depth. It also brought in Yoda for the first time as well, and ends with a great battle and a cliffhanger of all cliffhangers.
Yeah, it's nice that it doesn't end up on the good guy winning either.
Yeah,
I think that's why a lot of people like
bit of
it.
a downer of the ending actually made it a better.
This
film.
also came from an age where there was 2 years between Episode 4 and Empire, and there was 3 years between Empire and Return of the Jedi. Or was it 2 years? So either way, there's a real short turnaround between sequels and films at that point. Yeah. I suppose there's less time requiring in CGI, so that makes more sense.
But yeah, I mean, it's a great movie. I'm happy to have it right at the top for now and see what else lands.
Yeah, so we're going to leave it there unless Tony decides to argue.
Nice, you get this.
Awesome. What do we have next?
One last question on Empire, sorry. Do either of you guys own it in 4K?
Only in I did not buy it in 4K because I don't have a 4K device player yet, and the Disney Plus app streams in 4K. So I can stream it in 4K on my 4K telly anyway. So.
I haven't got Disney Plus, so I do have the Blu-ray, but I don't have the 4K version of it.
Okay.
But yeah.
I was wondering if it's worth buying the 4K if you have it on Blu-ray.
I like the earlier version, and you can't get that. You can only get the sort of like the latest.
Yeah, the only one they'll sell you is the remastered ones, unless you can find old copies of it secondhand or something.
And that's why I haven't, because I do much prefer the older cut.
Fair enough. I mean, I guess I could check out the 4K on Disney Plus.
Yeah, it's worth a go if you've got a reasonable internet connection that can stream 4K quality video. Right, the next one is the next Kurt Russell movie.
Classic. Escape from New York.
Tony?
I'm wearing an eye patch.
Yes.
And he's got the Statue of Liberty behind him. Is this your favourite 80s movie, Tony?
Or was it just the one you could do costume of and have a
I
convenient...
don't know. It's certainly one of them. It's my 80s favourite movies. I think most of them are going to come up here, but the John Carpenter, Escape from New York, Big Trouble in Little China, The Thing, they're all incredible movies. It's hard to pick between. I think Escape from New York is the better. Is an incredible sci-fi movie. It's the best of the sort of the sci-fi movies that he did. It's peak Kurt Russell. It's very different to Big Trouble in Little China. It's got phenomenal one-liners. It's got incredible soundtrack. Again, it was Carpenter's finest sort of work, really. I realise I've just disappeared, apparently.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's incredible. I don't know if I'd say it's my absolute favourite 80s movie, but it's definitely one of them.
Fair enough.
And I do own it on literally. I own a Laserdisc of this.
Oh, bloody hell.
I would put this in A. I really enjoyed it. I remember a bunch of the action. I would watch it any time it's on. Surprisingly, I don't actually own this one. I am working through my 80s collection on 4K, so it's probably on the list to buy.
I thought it was all right. I actually watched it after having watched Escape from LA. And I was never really interested in it until after Metal Gear Solid came out on the PS1, and I played that and really enjoyed it. And obviously that owes an awful lot to this.
Yeah, the character of Solid Snake is based on Sang Plisskin.
Yeah, of course. Because Kojima's a massive fan. Again, disclaimer, I do work for a video games related company, therefore I may have well, don't take everything I say about video games as completely unbiased, because there will be biases behind it. I
like Metal Gear as well. That's why I've got a Mark 23.
It's fair.
Oh yeah,
Metal Gear Solid is such a good game.
What I wouldn't give for like just a 4K remaster of Metal Gear Solid from the PS1, because I've played all the Metal Gears, but the first one is just brilliant, isn't it?
It's my favourite.
I'm not going to say what I really
think.
It
so many times. You know, you do it on the third playthrough, and you can get you unlock the tuxedo, and you play the whole game in a tux.
What are you going to say, Mark?
No, I'm not going to say it, because there would be consequences. No, I'll tell you after the stream. Don't worry. If you remember to ask me after the stream, I would put it in C because it was enjoyable, but I wouldn't think it set the world on fire.
Okay, then I guess it's going in A or something, because we were 2-1 against you.
And you were both S, were you?
I was A.
And Tony's obviously S.
Yes.
So yeah, all right, let's
it's
put it in
incredible. I love this film so much.
No, fair enough.
I own it on I bought it on Laserdisc. I don't even own a Laserdisc player.
Why the fuck did you buy it on Laserdisc then?
It's got beautiful artwork.
All right, that's fair enough. Next up, we've got Full Metal Jacket.
This is my rifle. There are many like it.
I have
This
never
one is
seen
mine.
this film.
You have not.
Never seen. Oh my god.
Oh, right. That's what we're watching when you come visit there.
I've heard so much about it. I'm aware of what
It's
goes on in it.
such
It's
an
just
incredible
never
film.
appealed to me.
It's a very dark film. It's not one you watch for fun.
My
the whole
general
movie.
opinion on films like this is if they're fantasy or escapism, then I'm up for it. If they have any bearing on real life or telling me how shit the real world is in real life, then I'm not massively interested in watching it. So I've kind of stayed away from this.
Kubrick at his absolute finest. I think this is the best film he did, and I do love 2001. And Clockwork Orange is a great film. But
I watched 2 Kubrick films. Clockwork Orange is one of them, and that was fucked up. And Eyes Wide Shut was another one. That was fucked up. So you're not endearing
and so
me to
is
watching
this, to be
this
honest. He's not going against against theme. But
Yeah, this was a.
it's a
This was
soundtrack.
the sort of. Like, I was 10 years old or something, and it was on Channel
Jesus
4.
Christ.
at,
Some
like-
bad parenting happened there, John.
No.
I mean, most of these films, if we watched them when they were out, would be real problems.
It wasn't really parenting, as in that the parents had put me to bed and I'd got back up and put the television on.
I watched
And I had
Terminator
to-
like that back when it was an 18 as well.
Oh, the worst film I watched, which was late at night after I got up to go and watch it, was Event Horizon late at night at my
Oh,
grandparents'
Sam
house.
Neill, that was a great film.
With all the curtains closed and speakers right by my own. I scared the shit out of myself watching that.
I had to watch movies with the volume on like 1, like the lowest of the low, so it didn't wake my parents. I'll be right back.
No
So-
worries.
I'm going to put this in an A.
Okay.
so it's an interesting one, this, because for the soundtrack is so incredibly important. When I was studying, so one of the things that I've studied, because I'm a bit weird like that, I've studied a lot of stuff. So one of my university stays was doing audio engineering, and for a unit, I studied how music is important for film, and this was one of the examples that I used. And there's a very famous section of it with Private Pyle, and he's doing the whole "This is my rifle. There are many like it, but this one is mine," repeating himself, and he sits in the toilets.
Is that where
he's
that comes from?
He's being well, they all chant it throughout the movie and stuff. It's like, very hoorah, very Marines, but the guy is being tortured, basically, and he's being bullied because he's a bit bigger and he's a bit slower and things like that. And he cracks. And he cracks under the strain of it. And they find him in the toilet sitting there with the incredibly creepy look on his face, just slowly growling this mantra over and over again with his rifle. And I've got two versions of it. And I took one version of it and I left it with the original soundtrack. And it's so scary. I'm not talking about horror film scary. I'm talking about genuinely upsettingly scary.
Psychologically.
And then I took that soundtrack off and I put some generic action movie music over it. And then I put something a bit light-hearted and a bit comical and things over it. And it changed the tone completely. It went from scary as all shit to being it's this funny little fat guy sitting on a toilet.
You're not endearing this film to me to make me want to watch it, I've got to say.
It was genuinely upsetting, this scene. And it's really the music, coupled with some phenomenal acting, that makes it so terrifying.
You know the guy... Oh, sorry.
Go on.
You know the guy that plays Kingpin in Daredevil?
Yes, Vincent D'Onofrio.
He's like the main character in Full Metal Jacket.
Okay.
It's also got...
Vincent D'Onofrio is a fucking amazing actor.
Yes, he was insanely good.
Adam Baldwin as well. Not
Yeah.
Adam Baldwin. Adam Baldwin. Who was it? Oh, Firefly. He was in Firefly. He was in Chuck.
Yeah, Baldwin.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's brilliant in it as well. He plays Animal Mother, which is such one of the coolest names ever. It's the whole, playing card in the helmet, piece, journalism. There's a big journalism thing about it. The main character becomes like a war journalist. So the whole propaganda side of it is just so well written. From a kind of cinematography and kind of a film critic point of view, one of the greatest films ever written and ever made and produced in every aspect of it. If it's a film that's a Saturday night and you've had a kebab and you want to watch, probably don't put this one on.
So, well, for me, obviously it's a D. I haven't seen it. I might watch it if it was free, but you're not endoing it to me. John's already said it's
on
an A.
Netflix.
Oh, there you go. Where would you rank it, Tony?
It's got to be an S. It's like I say, it's one of the greatest films ever made. But it's not. Greatest film does not mean most enjoyable film. That's something that's slightly different.
Yeah, I can't imagine
Shawshank
watching it for the
Redemption.
first time now. But yeah, it's definitely put it at the bottom of S. I'm fine with that. I think it's a great movie. It's one that I do want to pick up on 4K if there is a remaster. I just don't know if there is. I am building my 4K collection. It's just hard when they're fucking $25 a time.
All
you know?
right.
That's
I'll
so
maybe
expensive, aren't they?
consider watching it one day.
You should watch
Maybe.
it, but know what you're getting in for. It's not a hoorah action exciting movie like that.
All right. We'll see. What's next?
It
What's
does
this
have
one?
a good action scene in it. A really good
It's
action.
got some great action in it, but it's not an action movie.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Next up is Ghostbusters.
The very first one,
Which-
right?
Another fucking legendary movie. Amazing soundtrack.
Is this the one where Stay
Great
Puft
story.
appears?
Yeah, Stay Puft Marshmallow
Yeah.
Man. Gozer the Gazarian, Gozer the Traveller has come. Choose the way
Sigourney
your
Weaver being
demise.
excellent.
Yeah, I think you could
Somebody
put
asks
this.
you if you're a god. You say yes.
Yeah.
I didn't realise just how much
Bill
this film
Murray
meant to
being
me.
actually quite creepy.
Yeah, when I watched
really sexual predator level creepy.
Yeah, the second one was fun, mainly because the villain was so weird in the second one. The female reboot, I enjoyed it. It was fun. The latest one, Afterlife, though, is an actual sequel to this film and the second one.
Okay.
They made the video game was a sequel, wasn't it? The video game used the unused script for the third movie.
Oh, fair enough.
I see.
I know they've recently announced they're going to be doing another film following on from the most recent one, so Afterlife 2 or whatever it is. But yeah.
I thought
Ghostbusters Afterlife
was shit.
Yeah,
I thought it was terrible, movie.
I thought it was fun. I took it as I found it. It was enjoyable. Chris Hemsworth was clearly enjoying himself. The women were enjoying themselves. Yeah.
I put this probably in like A.
For me, it's a solid A. I own it once, but I don't own it on many formats. Obviously, I know most of the lines for it. It's an amazing film, which
I bought the 4K, but sometimes when you buy 4K of 80s movies, they're
really
quite
pixelated, grainy, and horrible. Yeah, the quality
and
of
that's what this
was.
was. Thing. So I was disappointed with the re-release, but I mean, I did buy it.
I felt like that a little bit with Escape from New York. Going back to that for a second, the 4K.
Some of the effects in Escape
remix,
from New York.
They did a 4K version of it with like HDR and things, and it just makes the film too dark, and you can't see it very well.
Fair enough.
So I think it made it worse, which was
so it's an A.
I'd put it in S, but
2 A's, 1 S, so it's an A.
Yeah, that seems.
You put it. We could bump it up a couple on A.
We're seeing a theme here where we're just like moderating Tony's S choices and
seems like it
D choices. Right, what we got here? We have got the Highlander. There can be only one.
I feel like John's struggling to be objective about this one.
Yeah, do you want to take it away, John?
I love that Queen did the soundtrack for this movie.
Oh, the soundtrack! Fuck! Oh, that album
I love the final fight.
So good.
I love that he's supposed to be Scottish and he wears a kilt. His
The way
French
it cuts
Scottish accent.
from the initial fight in Madison Square Garden to his memories back in Scotland.
That castle is only like an hour's drive from me.
Is this the one with Sean Connery as an Egyptian?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
The Spanish Peacock.
Yep. No, Highlander, this movie actually scared the shit out of me. When I first watched it, I must have been less than 10. And when they're in the tower and the Krugen's there and he's swinging his big bastard sword around. Krugen? Can't remember.
It was played by Clancy Brown as well.
He's played by Clancy Brown. He's knocking down parts of the wall, right? And I had fucking nightmares out this. And you go watch the movie now, and when he hits the wall, this big bit of styrofoam goes whee.
Yeah.
But like it scared the living shit out of me. I own it on Blu-ray. I don't think they've done a 4K, or maybe they have, and I've just not got around to getting it.
I'm sure they'll re-release it on 4K when they finally get around to filming the reboot of it.
Yeah. With probably Henry Cavill, but I mean, I did put put myself out there to play that role, you know.
Oh yeah, absolutely. The third one was okay. It wasn't bad. It was like a sort of remake of the first one.
Was it the second one with all the space aliens?
The second one
was tragic.
So the second one, there's a story behind this. The second one is they took the script they were going to use for He-Man Master of the Universe 2, repurposed it into the Highlander universe and storyline instead, and that's why Highlander 2 is so bullshit. Then they did the Highlander TV series with Duncan MacLeod, which I watched because it was on in the 90s, and I think my stepdad was watching it at the time.
They actually did
a cartoon series with Quentin MacLeod.
They did a movie with Christopher Lambert and the guy that played Duncan. I think it was called Endgame.
Yes, it's like that. Endgame was it's kind of like a sequel to the TV series because he pops up during the TV series of Duncan MacLeod as well. It's kind of like a feature-length episode, but sort of movie kind of thing. And
I actually thought that was decent. But I mean, I'm a huge fan of Highlander, so yeah, I'm happy with it up there in A. I would recommend if people haven't seen it.
Highlander is such an amazing film. Absolutely love it. And a lot of it at the time meant a lot to me because obviously he was immortal, so I used a lot of it as inspiration for. I watched it in the 90s, not in the 80s, because I was like single digits at the time. When I was getting into live roleplay, an ongoing vampire live roleplay chronicles, and you're obviously playing vampires who've been alive for hundreds of years, and a lot of that feeds into it. So it kind of, it was very informative, very good. Are you still with us, Tony, or are you just...
I am. It's so hot in here that my camera's overheating.
Did you not get a new camera? I
have,
thought
yeah.
you said. Is this a new camera?
Yeah.
And the new camera's overheating as well. Fucking
It
hell.
is so hot in here.
You've got a window you can open, or it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's just, I've got, laptops and lights and... Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah, the lights do add a lot of heat.
Could you get a
It's
fan?
the lights that are cooking it.
Could you get a fan and point it so it's blowing out the window, so it blows the hot air from inside outward? Yeah. Fucking hell.
But yeah, it's about 300 degrees in here. I'm literally dying.
Right. All right, so we're putting Highlander at the top of A.
I'm not such a big fan, if I'm honest. It's got some great lines. It's the best of the Highlander movies. We pretend the other ones didn't happen.
No
But
one ever knew we were.
I can't
you
get over Christopher
until
Lambert's
now.
accent.
It wasn't the best.
It just
Definitely wasn't the best Scottish
it's so
accent.
distracting.
Frenchman playing a Scotsman and a Scotsman playing an Egyptian and all sorts of other
It's
weirdness.
just it was that. It was such weird casting.
Christophe Lambert.
It just doesn't. Yeah, it's not in my list of top 80s movies at all.
Don't care. It's awesome. Love it.
Yeah, I love it as well.
We're gonna leave it there.
Yeah, I think we leave it there. It was just, it's strange for me to love it so much when the Scottish accent is just bad, but I guess, yeah, I love it.
Fair enough.
Great movie.
Moving on to the next one. We've got Harrison Ford and Sean Connery again in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Why did you pick this one?
Because it was between this one and Raiders of the Lost Ark for me, because I didn't really rate the one where you got the guy getting a cart with his thing out.
Kalima!
Yeah.
Kalima!
Not really much of a fan of that one. And I remember going to see Last Crusade when it was at the cinema and brand new. And Raiders of the Lost Ark was just like something I'd watched on telly at the time. So Last Crusade is the one that's had more impact on me personally. And I made the tier list and got all the pictures. So that's why I picked this one.
This is the one with the Nazis and the tank, right?
Yeah, they got the tank that drives down the thing, and they've got on the edge of the tank, and then eventually the tank drives off the cliff, and they think Indy's dead, but obviously he's not really dead. And you've got the
CGI
the
is...
old man with the Holy Grail at the end, and all the puzzles, and only the penitent man will pass.
You have
felt like-
chosen poorly.
Chosen poorly.
I felt like the CGI with the tank is questionable. I haven't seen it in a long time. I mean, Indiana Jones for me is take it or leave it. I'd say it's B. I own these, but I'm not the hugest fan.
Fair enough. I know most of what is said in it. I love it. I enjoy it. I don't think I actually own it. So for me, it's an A tier. Tony, what do you think about Indiana Jones?
It's got moments of greatness, but I don't think it's nearly as good as the first one.
Temple of Doom, that was the second one.
Temple of Doom. Sorry, yeah, Temple of Doom. Yeah, I don't think
the fourth one is such fucking bullshit.
you said that didn't happen. That's the one with the nuclear fridge,
Yes, the nuclear fridge.
which was the dumbest thing I've seen in a long time.
I thought he
Jones
was
and the
too
weird
old
crystal
in the
space aliens. He was.
I don't mind him being old, but nuclear fridge and the aliens.
And Shia LaBeouf's character in that was a fucking waste of
The
time.
bit where he's fucking swinging through the trees like Tarzan.
But we're now getting another Indy. We're getting Indy 5.
Yeah, we are.
He was
getting into
definitely
5
too
with Harrison
old.
Ford again. Yeah,
He was definitely too old for the last one, so I can't imagine how this one's going to be good.
He's fine. I don't mind him being in it. You could do a kind of Last Crusade thing again, but not with Shia LaBeouf.
yeah. Honestly, if you want a new Indiana Jones style film, then Jungle Cruise on Disney and Disney Plus at the moment with The Rock in it was a really fun film. Recommend it.
I did see that's Emily Blunt as well.
Yeah, that's the one.
So yeah, it was a good movie.
I keep meaning to watch, and I haven't seen it yet, the Uncharted movie.
I haven't seen
It was okay. It was fun. It was great fun. But it didn't set the world on fire. It's kind of like a prequel to the first video game in terms of story-wise. Tom Holland did a good job. Yeah, it was enjoyable, but it wasn't amazing.
I haven't even played all the video games. I've only ever played the first video game, and I thought that was pretty good.
Okay, so where's Indy landing?
If it was the other one, then it'd be at the top. But as it's not, it's in the bottom.
Right. Okay. For me, it'd be A tier because I know most of the dialogue by now, but I don't own it.
All right, put it in A. Bottom of
Yeah.
A.
I do own it. I've got it on DVD and I've got it on
Yeah,
Blu-ray.
so
but
two
I've
of
got
three of
it.
us own it, and
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Next up is Labyrinth, which was the first film I ever went to the cinema to watch, and I absolutely adore it. So before I start going off on one about it, one of you guys want to say if you've seen it or enjoy it at all?
David Bowie's super creepy, and that is awesome.
this is one I think this is the other one I haven't seen. So
No? It's another Jim Henson film. This is a mix of live action and puppets with Jennifer Connelly in it, whose little baby brother has been kidnapped at her request by David Bowie, the King of the Fairies, and then she immediately regrets it and goes into Labyrinth to try and get him back. And David Bowie wears some very, very tight leggings, sings some amazing songs. It's even got the guy who played Cat in Red Dwarf in it as a weird little fairy thing who gets his head taken off and thrown around the room. And it is so good. So good.
I don't disagree. I think this is great. This is peak Henson.
The Goblin City. The day I realised that they'd released this to be purchased on DVD, I immediately went out and bought it straight away because I hadn't owned it in years and seen it in years.
I just feel that this is everything The Dark Crystal wasn't. Like, you know, it was a good film.
Yeah. They've done various comics and novels around it. They've done board games. There's a comic series which is how Jareth, the Goblin King, got to be the Goblin King, called Coronation, which I read, and that was really, really good. I love it. It's hard for me to be objective about it. For me, it's right up there with Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, I think it's a great film. Yeah, I can't really fault it.
But John's not seen it.
John hasn't seen
apparently
it.
not. Should I see it?
Fuck
Yeah,
yeah.
you should.
Okay.
It's a good family film, but wait till your kids are a bit older because it can be a bit scary.
Yeah. Wait till the kids are maybe like 5 or 6-ish before showing it to them, I'd have thought. It's this fairy story, when you get right down to it. It's the ultimate fairy story.
Okay.
It's a classic fairy story.
Mm.
But yeah, it's David Bowie's performance just absolutely makes this film.
Yeah. And Jennifer Connelly plays her part perfectly as well. It's... Yeah. All right, I'm going to stop going on about that one now. What do we have next? From one of my favourite movies to one I don't remember ever watching, although I must have watched it. Lethal Weapon.
This is the first ever movie I owned on DVD.
It's
Okay.
a quintessential buddy cop movie, isn't it? Now I'm too old for this shit, sort of.
Yeah. They were too old for the shit whenever this came out in like the 80s, and apparently
Mel
are they
Gibson
doing a new one?
and what's his face? Danny Glover?
Danny
Yeah.
Glover, yeah. I heard recently that it comes up every few years that they're going to do a new Lethal Weapon.
I don't think they can.
I thought they did a TV series of it. When
They did do a
They
TV
did.
series.
flopped.
It didn't. It actually didn't flop
was
too bad.
alright.
It's not bad at all.
Yeah.
It's on Amazon Prime.
It's all right. It's pretty
Okay.
generic. It doesn't live up to the movie.
Fair enough. For me, it's literally sort of like door to door with Beverly Hills Cop. I must have seen it. I don't remember ever watching it. I know it's iconic, but it doesn't really make an impact on me.
I would rate this as an A. I think I'm happy for it to go at the lower end of A, but the whole Lethal Weapon series, that was one. Even Lethal Weapon 4 wasn't a bad movie. You know, we talk about like
movie, however.
Die Hard. After the second one, you just don't give a shit. I mean, Lethal Weapon 3 and Lethal Weapon 4 were decent. They probably like 7 out of 10s. So I think this spawned a very cool dynamic between the two characters, and yeah, I would definitely watch it again. Oh, and Joe Pesci's in it, is he not? Or is he not? Was he in the later ones only and not in the first one?
No, I think he was in the first one.
Joe
Thinking about it.
Pesci. Yeah, that does ring a bell now that you mention it. Where would you stick Lethal Weapon?
Mel Gibson's got great hair, so in S.
Okay, so for me it's a D. For Tony, it's another S. For John, you said it was an A.
Yeah.
I guess we'll compromise between the ones that we've got and bung it in A.
Yeah.
And from that to another Arnie movie. Please don't make me say what it is. If you don't recognise what the logo is from there, well, you can possibly see the wording on it.
So I think this is... Predator is one of, like, almost like 5 action movies from the 80s that are like...
define the 80s.
Yeah.
This Aliens and a few others.
What I will say is that I bought this on 4K because I love it so much, and it has the same problem as Ghostbusters in that it's just grainy as fuck. So it's a great movie. I guess you're fine just buying the Blu-ray. There's literally no advantage to buying the 4K. They didn't upscale it or remaster it or anything like that. But it will... I feel like this movie will never age.
There's a trailer I saw a couple of days ago about a film coming to Disney Plus soon that 20th Century Fox have done, which is called Prey. And it's Native Americans.
Is it based on the video game?
No, it's this. It's Native Americans versus a predator. Native Americans with axes again in the times of the American Civil War sort of period versus a
they've
predator.
made a few Predator films lately, and they've all been shit.
This one looks like it holds the most to.
Why can't we have a good movie of that video game? The good one, the not the modern one, the old Prey game that was 3D Realms.
Yeah. I think they tried to, and they could never quite make it work, which is why Arcane picked it up through Bethesda and made the Prey movie that they did, which didn't really owe much to the Prey name, but was very similar to sort of like Bioshock and System Shock kind of games instead.
Did you hate the 2018 Predator movie?
Predators. Yeah. I never watched it.
I just
really?
Very good.
Yeah, it looked interesting, but I never watched it. Predator and Predator 2 to a lesser extent. The Predator movies for me. I'm going to give Prey a go because Prey looks interesting. Prey looks like it could do it justice.
I watched the Predator one on a flight in 2018. I guess I was either at work or something, and yeah, it wasn't. It was the best of the Predator movies that they made recently, I guess. So I didn't.
It's not really saying much, though, is it?
No, there was one a few years back after that where they had Morpheus as like this, Morpheus,
weird.
Lawrence
and then
Fishburne.
You had all the Alien versus Predator films that were just all awful.
Yeah, and this remake or reboot of just a single Predator against like the Marines or whatnot, I felt was much better. But this movie, the original Predator, I would put it.
Oh yeah, because that one, Predators, that was it was directed, if I recall correctly, by the guy who played Billy in Predator, the one with the glasses.
Was it?
I think so, yeah.
He actually directed that Predators movie from a couple of years ago, which is why there was such sort of hope for it at the time, which I never went to go and see in the end. But no,
if you get a chance, see it. It's not bad. But yeah, this Predator is an it's an S for me. I mean, I went and bought the 4K, even though apparently I was dumb to buy it.
I've never bought it, but I've watched it multiple times. I'll be disappointed if someone hasn't seen it because it is so iconic for the 80s actions movies for me. I wouldn't say I've memorised a lot of the dialogue, but I know basically everything that happens in the film. So I could go between A and B. Tony?
S.
Predator. 2 S's.
Fair enough. Predator. S tier.
That's not where I don't know why there's even a debate.
Yeah, all right, fine.
Even from a silly, even kids recognise that. Do you remember the bro handshake?
Oh yeah, the
very start.
See that and know what that is.
Schwarzenegger and what's the guy's name? Carl Weathers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, of course. Got you pushing pencils.
It's about as iconic as you can possibly get from an image.
So the next one on the list is The Princess Bride.
Yes.
Which is another iconic sort of fantasy fairy story kind of a movie.
I've seen this like 30 years ago. I remember the one line.
What? As you wish.
Is it not like you killed my father? Or...
Prepare. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Yeah, like that's literally all I remember. I remember sitting and watching the whole movie, but now 30 years on, that's all I remember.
Giant. You should never go against whatever the race's name was when death is on the line. Aha.
Yeah.
Iocane powder. He's only mostly dead. We can bring him back.
So unfortunately, based on that, I can't put in a category because I don't remember.
All narrated by the guy who played Columbo to his grandson who's sick and wants him to tell the story or not tell the story at various points. Tony, you're not saying much about this one?
I haven't really got a lot to say about this one. I do know it. It's all right. It's I've got no sort of like special attachment to it or anything. Yeah, it's a classic fantasy family movie. It's got some pretty good one-liners. But yeah, I'm not a big fan, to be honest. It's not one of my favourites.
Love, true love brings us together today. Sorry, not sorry. For me, it's an A because obviously I'm just busy quoting it throughout all the time we're talking about it. Not so much for you two though. Where would you guys want it?
Put it in bed.
Put it where you want it, Mark, because I haven't seen it, and put it in the bin is not
valid.
Yeah, it's not valid
for
somebody whose camera can't work and we can't see his face. To
I don't even know if it's a camera anymore. I think it's my laptop. So I'm being quiet actually because I'm sitting here trying to make the bloody thing reconnect.
Fair enough. Okay, no worries. Right, well, we'll leave it at A then. We'll move on. Rambo, First Blood, Part 2. I never watched it.
Really?
Never. Not
interested.
interested.
Did you get to this point in life without at any point watching Rambo?
No, never watched Rambo.
I've not watched it either.
Serious? Because this is proper. This is quintessential Rambo. Because First Blood was an amazing film, but of course it's a very dark film. It's that whole kind of because it's Sylvester Stallone fighting the police basically. Like,
you know what? I'm gonna
I watched Hot Shots Part Deux, which takes piss out of this, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, this is proper Rambo in that it's red bandana and bow and arrow and.
Can I just say that
people getting killed? This is Rambo. When you think of Rambo, this is what you get.
Okay, can I ask a serious question to you about this, Mark? Because I've never seen Rambo, right? But is this a product of Channel 4 and the BBC being cheap? Because I've seen Cliffhanger like fucking 10 times. Every time I was a kid and I put on the TV Friday night, it's like Cliffhanger with Sylvester Stallone,
I think
right?
Rambo was on ITV a bunch.
So I've seen Cliffhanger like 10 times. I don't even think it's a good movie, really. But I've never seen Rambo, so is it just...
I think I never watched Rambo because for some reason I always just thought that Schwarzenegger was the better of the two actors. So I decided in my head that I didn't want to watch Rambo.
Yeah, I was always a Schwarzenegger fan more than a Sylvester Stallone fan.
Okay, well then you have to decide where it goes because we haven't seen it.
Rambo.
Yeah, I mean, for me, for John and I, inherently, it's down in D because we've never seen it, and we maybe might watch it if it's free on streaming, I guess.
It's a good movie. It's quintessential 80s. It's got some ridiculous hair, and the man wears a bandana for a large part of the film, torn from the dress of his lover, who was brutally murdered. At one point, he wields an M60 with one hand.
Yeah, which is the iconic shot you've seen of Sylvester Stallone.
So,
that, right?
If you're going to make something based on pure iconicness, I don't think you can get any more than Rambo.
Okay, so where are you putting it?
An S, obviously.
All right, so 2 Ds versus an S.
But we don't really count because we've not seen it.
That just means we put it in there. Fuck it, I'm going to leave it in D. We can argue. If you disagree with us, tell us in chat or in the comments. That'll be fun to moderate those comments. Moving on to another iconic piece of 80s film, Robocop, which was
pretty brutal. Robocop at the start of the movie,
really brutal.
Yeah, this is fantastically written and produced film.
This and its sister movie, Starship Troopers, which is another fucking amazingly good film.
Yeah, it did come quite a bit later though, Starship Troopers.
Yeah, they're both Verhoeven and they're both cut from the same cloth.
They
Because Verhoeven never read the book of Starship Troopers, did he?
So
He made the movie, but he still hasn't ever read the book Starship Troopers. He took the vague idea of a concept and just made up.
If that's resulted in the film that he made, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
I feel like with Robocop, they wouldn't make a movie like that anymore.
No,
would they?
I don't
Because the
think-
guy
Well, they
literally
remade
gets
it, but it was terrible.
tortured
it
to
was
death.
nowhere near as good as the first one. Now,
They're like shooting out his kneecaps one at a time or something. It's like the
Yeah.
most brutal thing. It's a brutal murder at the start of the film.
yeah, the stuff they
I-
do with all the hookers and cocaine and drugs and the
I'll buy that for
Blatant.
$1.
I buy that for $1.
The second and third movie are take him or leave him, I guess. But
Any of the second, third date, we'll pretend
Yeah,
they didn't
they
exist.
don't exist.
the
The only
first
reason
one
they
is
exist
very
is
good.
so people could sell toys of RoboCop and Ed 209.
Yeah. True.
Toys.
So-
for this
so-
18-rated blood, gore, sex, violence, drugs fest of a movie.
It's absolutely fantastic. I would argue that it's one of the greatest 80s movies in every way. It's satire perfectly.
Yeah.
It's got action. It's got one-liners. It's got silly hairstyles and giant shoulder pads.
Yeah.
There's no aspect of this film that is not superb.
Okay.
For me, it's an A tier, largely because I don't own it on other formats, basically.
Yeah, I don't own it either, but I'm okay with A.
Yeah. I have no idea if we've just lost Tony completely.
No, I'm still here. I'm just still messing about trying to get a picture back.
Fair enough. We got a couple of A's versus what I assume is your S.
Absolutely, yes. To me, this is the best film of the 80s, genuinely.
All right.
So as much as I'm taking the piss, sticking things in A's and in S's and D's, I really do think that this is the best film of the 80s.
All right.
If it's yeah, put it
Do you
up.
want to compromise with that, John?
Yeah, I'm fine putting it up into
Yeah.
S.
Fair enough.
Most brutal film in the 80s.
Oh,
Maybe
it's-
the only film that gives it a run for its money in terms of brutality, I think, is Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah, fair enough. Which leads us on to the next one. Another Arnie film there.
So I'm in a weird spot with Terminator in that I love Terminator, the first movie, but Judgment Day was just so fucking good. So it's like
I mean, it's got a kid in it, which makes it quintessentially 80s. An unnecessary child.
But I think Judgment Day was actually 1994, right?
Yeah,
Something
it's
like
a
that.
90s movie.
Or maybe it wasn't. No, Judgment Day was 91. Terminator was 84. So, like, how many times, apart from Aliens, which, and I guess Star Wars Empire Strikes Back, how many times are the sequels better than the first movie? Like, it doesn't fucking happen very often, right? It's
Yeah.
like a bolt of lightning. And I felt Terminator was the same. So Terminator is
To
a
both
brilliant.
recapture and get more of, or do the magic in a different way.
Yeah.
Got
So
for the first one.
so
So
like,
I never saw the original Terminator until long after I'd seen Terminator 2, which was, as you say, absolutely stunningly good piece of film. But the original Terminator film just never really did it for me.
oh really?
Yeah.
We were talking earlier about the kind of films you watched when your mum and dad weren't paying attention or, under the covers.
Yeah.
For me, the first proper sort of like, because it was an 18 certificate at the time, film was the Terminator for me. And I went over a friend's house because his parents were out and they had it on VHS and we drew all the curtains and we had like someone on lookout in case mum and dad come home kind of thing. And I must have been about 12 or something watching this film. And that bit where he pops his eye out with the scalpel,
Yeah.
that was pretty special to my formative years, as it were, just from the sheer, I couldn't get my head around this like gore.
Fair enough. I think if I'd watched the Terminator before seeing Terminator 2, my opinion might be different. But
I think
having watched
Terminator 2
it
is
in
the
that
best
order, it's kind of skews my perception of it a little bit, which is why my personal preference for Terminator would be to put it in C. I liked it, but it didn't rock my world.
I think for me it was the opposite. It rocked my world because it just felt like he was invincible. They tried everything. I don't know if you remember the movie, but they did all the pipe bombs and they shot him a million times. And then at the end, when they actually like I think Reese has been shot at that point, and he puts the pipe bomb into the truck, like it's a truck of diesel or a truck of petrol, and the whole truck explodes, and you think, holy shit, they've done it. And then the endoskeleton like comes out. I remember kind of similar. You do, like, I was watching it at like 6 a.m. I'd got up super early, got the VHS, so my folks weren't around, and like I had to put it off when the exoskeleton came out. I was like, holy shit, right, switch this off. This has got too fucking real for me now. Because I was too young to be watching it, you know.
Oh,
but
that bit in T2 where he pulls his arm up and just rips the skin off.
Yeah.
Oh.
So for me, I mean, it's got to, for me, this one's got to be an S.
Yeah, it is absolutely iconic. To me, it's a bit like RoboCop in that it's iconic of the 80s. You know, when we're talking about kind of the movies that you think of when you think of 80s movies, and Terminator's in there with Aliens and RoboCop and Predator. It fits in that bunch.
Yeah, I just think you're right. T2 does overshadow it a bit, but
yeah, I think T2's a better film.
Yeah, and T2 got a complete remaster just a few years back, and if you've not picked up the remaster, both on Blu-ray and 4K, it's amazing. Like, it's just so good. I highly recommend it.
I think it's really interesting looking at this tier list we're putting together as to what our perception of the 80s was. Looking at what's on the top and what isn't, and where the.
I mean, you can't see me anymore, but I'm wearing an eye patch, and that should say something.
Fair enough. All right, Terminator to S tier then, which takes us next on to The Thing, which I've literally never seen.
I adore this movie.
You're watching it when you come.
I know nothing about it. It's just stayed totally off my radar, and I can't comment on it in the slightest. What is it? I don't even know what the fuck this film is.
Okay, let's not spoil it.
I think it's a horror film.
It is. It's a horror sci-fi film.
Okay.
There's a creature at like an Antarctic base where they're like completely, you know, there's no transport in and out. Like transport's like once every 3 weeks.
You're describing an episode of the X-Files to me.
Right, hold on. You've seen Red Dwarf a lot, right? You've seen Red Dwarf? You've seen Red Dwarf?
Oh, fuck yeah.
So it's a polymorph. I guess the polymorph episode is based on this.
The polymorph is another. It's a piss take out of The Thing in some ways of it.
But and they're on a base in Antarctica. There's maybe 20 folk on the base, and the polymorph is taking over people one at a time, and they don't know who's the polymorph. And that's the movie. And it's brilliant. And it's so good. And it's an S 100%. It's above it's above Bill and Ted. It's on a par with Aliens, how good it is.
If it's that good, why is it not on my radar at all?
Well, it will be. I literally have a
broken radar.
Yeah, I'm gonna buy it. It's like on my. It's already in my Amazon basket on 4K release, so I'll have it by the time you come visit. We'll watch it.
Wow,
it's that good. It's just so good. It's the next 80s movie I'm buying on 4K.
I've bought it already. I bought the when they about a year ago or so, they did a re-release and they did a big special edition thing and that, and I was straight on there with the pre-order. It's another amazing John Carpenter, Kurt Russell kind of film.
Who does the soundtrack in The Thing? Because the soundtrack was so good.
It's John Carpenter.
Oh, was it?
Well, with most of his films, either wrote it or collaborated writing it. But yeah, it's so good. The soundtrack is so scary. I think I'm back, baby. Yeah,
you are back. Good to see you again.
Welcome back.
All right. Well, I'll compromise on putting it at the bottom of this. So that's kind of my impact on that one. And all right, moving on to the next one. I'm just not going to comment in the slightest.
I mean, that Transformers movie is the best Transformers movie that has ever been.
The best Transformers movie, certainly.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The soundtrack, the voice, the characters, the death, the drama.
The hair's a bit small.
Be Grimlock, kick butt.
So good.
Yeah, no, it's an S for me. It's a brilliant movie.
Metroplex from the opening. Unicron, Orson Scott Wells. Orson Welles. Don't know, I get mixed up with Orson Scott Card and Orson Welles there. Orson Welles. Fucking Leonard Nimoy voicing Galvatron in it as well.
Yep. Yeah, it's a great movie.
Which is a shame, because Peter Wells did an amazing job as Megatron. I thought it was such a shame that we didn't get more of Megatron throughout that film. But, yeah. And, of course, you have the Return of Optimus Prime coming on later. So good.
It was a great movie, yeah.
As toy commercials go, this is absolute peak.
So I watched a really, really good video about this on YouTube a few, maybe a year or two ago, from a series that Film Critics done called "Are They Really That Good?" And he analysed this film, and his verdict on this film, which I thoroughly agree with, having listened to all of his talking through and discussing it, is that the film is the most failed toy commercial going, because they tried to make a substanceless shit film that would make kids go and watch toys. And they ended up making an incredibly impactful, really powerful classic movie with themes of death and loss and moving on and keeping struggling anyway, that has such an impact and memory on kids who grew up watching it, even to today, that this film really is that good.
But why is it a failed toy commercial? Did everybody go out and stop buying Transformers toys when the movie came out?
They wanted to make it sort of shallow, and they didn't want it to have any substance, and yet it had all of that, despite their efforts
didn't
anyway.
want it to have any substance. It can have substance and sell toys. Star Wars has got substance and sold toys.
That wasn't the objective, though. That wasn't what they set out for when making this film.
They're only in there to make people buy cuddly Ewok toys.
Yeah, they don't have...
It's been a long time since I saw this movie, but when I was a kid, I must have seen it 100 times.
You got the touch.
Because there's a really funny quote at the very start, because that's the thing with some of these 80 movies now. You know, when they tell about the future, I think at the start of that movie, they're like, in the year 2005.
Yes.
And then it cuts to Cybertron, and I just remember that scene where he's like, now we need a little energy and a lot of luck.
That Laserbeak busy recording before he flies off back to Soundwave and Megatron.
Yeah, and there's the whole bit where like he's like, "But Prime, when are we gonna start kicking Megatron's butt?" or something like. It's just every line. That was such a great movie. I would
so over the top, so good, so well done.
I think all the Michael Bay movies, you could literally throw them in the bin and just fucking make that movie with the CG, and they'd make so much more money. But I mean,
I don't know if they could.
I don't like it. I like hand-drawn animation.
Justice.
It's why I don't like a lot of the modern, the newer anime films. So I'm a big Studio Ghibli fan, and they're beautifully hand-drawn animated movies, and they're amazing. And then you see a lot of like the stuff that comes on Netflix now. It's all just done on a computer. It's got no soul.
On that though, I do want to weigh in the more recent Netflix Transformers series they did, which was a set of 3 series as a prequel to the Transformers Generation 1 cartoon series. And the first miniseries is the Autobots versus Megatron Civil War. Autobots versus...
Decepticons.
What the fuck are they called? Decepticons, the Civil War on Cybertron. Then it goes into them... traveling from Cybertron to Earth, and there's stuff with Unicron involved, and Galvatron gets involved, and there's some weird time travel stuff, and it's really quite cool. Then they land on Earth, and they meet up with Beast Wars stuff, and then that goes on. And that little mini Netflix series is actually really worth watching as a fan of this original movie.
Okay. Well, then maybe I'll check it out, because I checked out a bunch.
I haven't seen it, and I do like. I've seen a lot of the cartoon series and that, because I like Transformers.
Give
the comics as well. The comics are really good.
Give this Netflix set of 3 series a try. I think you'll enjoy it.
I will, because I kind of hate how in the Michael Bay movies it's like every movie everybody's just back, or the characters get so little screen time.
The last live action film they did, Bumblebee, was actually really good because Michael Bay had nothing to do with it, and was really good fun. It's well worth it. It's got heart. It's got the original Gen 1 Transformers in it and their robot forms. It's really good.
Okay.
Really
okay.
Cool.
What's up next?
Yeah, enough Transformers. Right, we'll stop talking about that. What is next?
Yeah, Transformers.
Tron, from Transformers to Tron.
So I'm not a huge fan of the original Tron, but I fucking loved Legacy.
Legacy was cool. Tron itself is so it's like Terminator, Robocop, Predator. It's iconic 80s. It's informed so much cinema since then. There's not much more you can say about that.
It's
really.
not that quotable though, is it?
No, I suppose not.
No, but the scene where he gets broken down by a laser and beamed into the computer is pretty iconic, I guess.
It's an iconic scene and it's an iconic movie, but it's not a very the dialogue in that movie is not really very.
Yeah, you know the story.
Memorable, is it?
Watching it nowadays, it's sad to say that watching it nowadays is painful because of how aged and dated the CGI does
it
look
hasn't
compared to
aged as well as a lot of the other stuff on this list.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
Yeah, did you know that Tron was the first ever movie that did CGI, though?
I did not know that.
Yeah, 100%. First ever movie to use CGI. It was 82, I believe. I only know that because my late father told me when he was like, "Come watch this, John, you will like this." I was like, "What is it, Dad?" And he's like, "It's a movie that uses computer-generated effects." I was like, "Yeah, whatever." Wow. And then I watched it and I was like, "Yeah, okay. For once you're right."
I love that the guy in it who played Tron, a chap called Bruce Boxleitner, was also an incredibly powerful part as John Sheridan in Babylon 5, which is a TV series I adore so much.
Did you guys ever watch the Tron cartoon?
No. I played some of the Tron video games, and apart from the Atari ones, they were actually all right. The Atari games were fucking shit.
Yeah. Was the cartoon sort of around the sort of time of Legacy and about?
Yes, it was about a year after. I guess I think it might be on Disney Plus.
I watched a couple of episodes of it. I recall not being massively impressed.
But it's Elijah Wood as the protagonist, and Brooks Boxenheimer is in it as Tron. And if you've not seen it and you liked Tron Legacy, then it's really good. It's a really good kind of. I was really sad that they cancelled it after one series.
I'd like them to make Tron 3 following on from Tron Legacy.
I like Tron Legacy.
I felt like the cartoon was as good as Star Wars Rebels. It must have been about the same time, and they kept doing Rebels, and
that's high praise.
And they cancelled. But I guess you'd have to watch the cartoon in like chronological order, right? Yeah, it was good. It was good.
I'd put Tron exactly where I've put it, for the sake that it is iconic in not necessarily in terms of 80s films, but films in general. It'd be a shame if people hadn't seen it, but yeah, for all the other reasons you said, contribute towards that.
Yeah, I put it in a B as well, and it is cool to see where CGI all started, I guess, right?
Yeah. Tony?
I don't think it's aged well enough to go anywhere that's not a D.
So 2 Bs and a D.
Then B's win.
Yep. Seems reasonable. Moving on to the next one. Looks like we've got 3 films left to go. We're near the end. The next one is Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is really hard to see on that picture. It's a real shame.
Yeah, Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Picture. Who Framed Roger is Christopher Lloyd. He was the judge who was secretly a toon all along. Remember me, Eddie? When I killed your brother?
It's been a long time since I've seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Run over with a
steamroller.
Yeah, and turns out he's still alive. He was a toon all along.
Believe this was a very difficult film for them to make back then.
Yeah, because it wasn't the first. Was it Cool something Cool Running Cool? No, it was one of the early films where they mixed CG and live action. Sorry,
yeah,
cartoons and live action. But it wasn't the first one.
Yeah, there are loads of making of things. They had Bob Hoskins interacting with like robot arms and stuff moving around, and then they put CGI over the top of it.
Fuck, it's really going to bother me now. What the one that came before it was?
Did Bob?
They learned a lot from the film before it, and they used that to perfect it with Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Did he win an Oscar or an Academy Award or something for supporting actor? I feel like that was a thing.
No idea. I can't remember that far back.
But no, I like Who Framed Roger Rabbit
and Jessica Rabbit, obviously. Bob Hoskins as Eddie. Ultimately, it's just a murder mystery story with cartoons and toons in it, mixing toons and real life. But it was a cool film. You know, I think opinion-wise, I'd probably put it in C. It'd be a shame if you hadn't seen it, but I don't think I'd be disappointed if you hadn't seen it these days.
Bob Hoskins won the Golden Globe that year for Best Actor in a Motion Picture.
And then he went on to star as Mario in Super Mario World. Yeah.
That's not a great movie.
Yeah, that's not a great movie. But
Cool
yeah, Who
World
Framed
was
Roger
later. I've
Rabbit?
just looked it up. I don't know what. There was definitely a movie before that they made to almost test the stuff for Who Framed Roger Rabbit. It's really going to piss me off now.
Fair enough.
But it was an important movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. It was great to watch. The story
It's
was
aged better
solid.
than Tron did.
Yeah, I'd agree with
Because,
that.
because it used that hand-drawn animation, which doesn't really age.
Yeah.
It still looks great today, whereas CG looks shit pretty quickly. It's like the Lord of the Rings. The earlier Lord of the Rings films, where they relied a little bit more on practical effects, look better now than Hobbit does. Or Jurassic Park. First one still looks amazing. 2 and 3 were shit and look shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I get what you're
Because
saying
they're
about
too heavily
practical
on
effects,
CGI.
though.
So Roger Rabbit B for me.
Tony?
I do own it. I've got it on Blu-ray, but I only own one copy of it, which is rare for this list.
For me, it's in C because I liked it, but it's not all that. I guess we'll compromise and put it on B, kind of in the middle, assuming that what Tony said didn't actually say a particular tier in there, so let's just go with that. Awesome. Right. Next up, we have Willow.
I have no
Iconic
knowledge of
artwork for this.
what
I
this is.
actually own the art book for where this was made. It's really an amazing sci-fi.
It's for me. It's kind of. I watched it at the same sort of time I watched The Dark Crystal and Labyrinth. It is your classic archetypal fantasy hero's journey movie. I watched it again recently after the trailer for the Willow TV series that they're making for Disney Plus came out at the Disney celebrations recently, and it was fun. Watching Val Kilmer ham it up was great. There's so much hamming it up going on in this movie. I wouldn't say again set the world on fire, but it was great, solid, memorable.
So it's better than
piece of
Dark
80s for
Crystal,
me.
but not as good as Labyrinth.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was better than Dark Crystal personally, but I'm happy to put that down to personal taste. John, were you saying you hadn't seen it, or you
I
don't
haven't
remember
seen it. No.
Do you just not watch kids' films? Is that how this works?
Do you know
Because
what?
we're kind of
It
getting
might
that.
be because like my wife was like, "Have you seen Goonies?" And I was like, "No."
Dude.
So I guess I've seen it now, but I hadn't. I think what happened when I was a kid, I played video games. I didn't watch television, and then I started getting into all these 1880s movies, and then I started watching.
1880s movies.
See, I'm the other way round. So all of my favourite TV and movies and stuff is from the 70s and the 80s, maybe the early 90s. But as I got to a little bit older, I stopped watching anything at all, and all I was interested in was basically Warhammer and video games. And that's been the same way for the next sort of 25 years. So, yeah, anything made after about 90... Actually, The Matrix, that was the cut-off point.
99, yeah. Such a good film.
I just stopped watching stuff.
I really enjoyed the latest Matrix film, Matrix 4.
It was a little bit meta, but I did enjoy it. So.
I still haven't watched it because I love the original so much. And the tone of the new one just really jars with me.
Yeah.
In fact, they've gone with that kind of humorous, meta, silly, and that's at the hot. No, the Matrix was never like that.
I think you should watch
Completely
it.
the opposite end of the stick.
I think you should watch it and get past that. It's not going to set your world on fire, but I think you'll enjoy it. When it's all said
That
and
film.
done.
I know we're talking about 80s movies, but The Matrix is my favourite film of all time.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I own every version of it that exists. I've got various special editions. I've got all the film cells. I've got props. And when I was 18, I thought I was Neo and wore a trench coat.
I've still got my ankle-length leather trench coat that I bought.
You know,
for that. Yeah.
it was so important to me, that film.
I didn't buy it, my mum got it for me for my 21st birthday.
The second Matrix film, and I know objectively it's not a very good film, I went to see it at the cinema 11 times.
Wow.
Objectively, it's not the best, but it's still good. I enjoyed it. I'd watch it again quite happily.
I regularly do.
There you go then. Anyway, but we're spent to be talking about Willow, and the fact that we've segued onto the Matrix kind of tells us everything we need to know about Willow at this point.
It was great art direction.
I'd probably put it in C, maybe a D. What do you think, Tony?
It's getting a reboot on Disney Plus or something, right?
No, it's getting a sequel. It's not a reboot.
Okay.
Many years on, the main character has grown up and become a sorcerer, and stuff is happening again.
It's still got Warwick Davies in.
Yep, he's playing Willow in it still. As obviously a grown-up Willow. I think he's playing his biological age. Rumours are Val Kilmer will turn up in it again, maybe in the first season, maybe in the second season.
I suppose this is probably telling. I remember the art direction being beautiful, and I remember some of the composition being incredible. I don't remember what the plot was.
Fair enough.
So I think that probably says something about the film, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Seems like it's a C overall then, right?
All right. Seems fair. And now we have the last film out of our 29 movies of the 80s. Since I forgot to mention them as we were going through, the Patreon who requested us do this, Maverick, nominated Aliens and Predator and Terminator for inclusion in all this, both of which are all going to be included anyway, so that's all well and good. And the last one...
Those three are like the big iconic. Aliens, Predator, Terminator.
And they're all in that top slot, and they should be.
Says a lot about Maverick's taste, which is not a bad thing at all.
It's not the last film, mine, which is clear.
Yeah. The last film we're looking at is Tom Cruise's Top Gun.
I feel like I need to watch Top Gun.
Sorry,
because the new
one
is coming out.
You're not thinking for the first time.
Have you not seen Top Gun?
No, I mean because the new one's coming out. It's been a long time.
It's been out for a couple of weeks, and it is fucking worth watching. It is really good if you're a fan of the first one. My wife really doesn't like the first one, but she quite enjoyed the sequel as well. Top Gun Maverick is really good.
Shen hates the first one. She can't. She thinks. Well, she just doesn't like Tom Cruise. She thinks he's such a smarmy twat, as well. Words. She finds him offensive just being on the screen.
So I used to think that until I saw a film called The Last Samurai. At which point, I suddenly gained respect for Tom Cruise as an actor.
I mean, the whole Scientology
Last Samurai
thing doesn't help.
So good. No,
I like Cruise in the Mission Impossible movies as well, to be fair.
Yeah, the Mission Impossible films are a bit of a guilty pleasure for me. Whenever a new one comes out, I always go and see it.
They were a guilty pleasure up until the last one, which I absolutely rate as one of my favourite films and is so good. Fallout is incredible.
You got a lot better. Really. Do you remember the second one when he had the hair thing going on?
The second one with the John Woo filmed and directed. You can tell it was a John Woo film because it had fucking
I love John Woo films, unsurprisingly.
Did you see the Mission Impossible movie where like they had to get like a processor from like an underwater thing and Tom Cruise was swimming around it?
That's 6, I think.
Did you ever see the interview that he said to do that scene he had to practice holding his breath, and by the end of the movie,
Rogue Nation, there we go,
he was able to hold his breath for 6 minutes.
Bloody hell, that's...
And he said that what would happen was he would be sitting in like a meeting, you know, like for an audition or something, and he would just realise that he hadn't breathed in like 5 minutes.
Christ.
Because he'd been practicing so much, because apparently like it took like a minute to get the cameras in, and then like another minute before the shooting started, and then 2 or 3 minutes to do the shooting, so he just had to get his breath. And I was like that's fucking crazy. Like he just basically said on like Jonathan Ross, I was in a meeting and I hadn't breathed in like 5 minutes, so I was like, oh shit, I should breathe.
Well, as I understand it, Top Gun's not the film that made Tom Cruise a star. That was Days of Thunder. But I think Top Gun
I think Top Gun's a better film than Days of Thunder, though.
Yeah, absolutely. It's far more iconic and memorable as far as I'm concerned.
Even the soundtrack, you know, Kenny Loggins.
Take My Breath Away, Kenny Loggins' multiple contributions.
It's just it's an absolutely iconic. The volleyball scene, which a lot of people have read a lot more into than I think was initially planned.
The fact that they had that episode of Archer where they kidnapped Kenny Loggins or tried to kidnap him to perform, that was fucking brilliant.
So yeah, Top Gun's an absolute S-tier film. I really do think it's brilliant. It's got phenomenal one-liners. It's got incredible acting going on. Everybody remembers Tom Cruise, but also like Val Kilmer was really good in it.
Going on, but I suppose it's got good acting.
It's good acting. It's well done.
Michael Ironside in it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's Michael Ironside? He was like the general or something, was he?
Was he call sign Viper, or was he? I can't remember. He was one of the 2 instructors at Top Gun that they had teaching him.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
It was. Yeah. It's an absolutely iconic 80s movie. and it's aged really well. Some of these films on this list, we've tried to sort of skirt around it, have not aged outrageously well from a kind of humor or sensibilities kind of point of view. But I think Top Gun has.
Most of the things in S, I think, have aged okay.
Yeah. The ones in S that I've seen, yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, largely, I think, actually, looking at it.
Agree with that.
But then maybe we're looking through rose-tinted glasses, maybe a little bit.
There is a little bit of that. And also, we're of different generations. I have this discussion with the kids because they're of a very different generation to me.
Gotcha.
And things that I'm looking at going, that's all right, isn't it? And their kids are like, no, that's not okay.
Oh, there's that bit in Avengers Civil War where Spider-Man goes, you remember that really old film, Empire Strikes Back, with the walkers and the ropes?
How dare he? How dare he? Really old. I'm glad Tony gave him shit for that.
It's fair. That was fun.
Absolutely deserved it.
So yeah, there you go. The 3 Grots do 80s movies. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you found humour and value in this, please consider subscribing to our channel, giving this video a like, leaving some comments and all the usual stuff.
I was going to say,
we haven't rated Ultramarines the movie. Where does that go?
It wasn't 80s.
It has been rated. It has been rated suitably far off the bottom of this list.
Well, I feel like we should. We normally talk about Warhammer, and I feel like we should tie it in.
It's a huge pile of steaming donkey shit.
I went to a screening of that in my local Games Workshop store,
and
we all sat there eating pizza, and we thought it was the best thing ever. We were wrong.
That's a shame. Yeah.
I think it was mostly because we were all in the store playing 40k, watching the premiere of a 40k film.
Sounds fair.
People should write in the comments what their favourite 80s movie is, and then maybe there'll be some...
why it deserves to be on this list.
And why is... and why it's Escape from New York and Big Trouble in Little China, but these wankers have dropped them down because they're wankers.
Yeah, because we don't share the same values. What can we say? There we go.
I wore an eye patch.
Is the
2
Emperor's...
fucking hours I've worn an eye patch.
It might have just been 1 hour and we couldn't tell because your camera wasn't working fast.
Yeah, you faked camera problems for an hour to get the eye patch off.
I've been drinking shit beer.
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, his camera broke so he could take the eye patch off and give it a rest.
Here's the question, though.
I can't see anything. I cannot see any of these labels or anything.
Okay.
I'm just relying on what you say.
Do you want to take it off?
Based on this, we need to then mark Tony. If you had to pick one movie out the whole list, what is your favorite 80s? Because I assume your favorite 80s movie is on this list. Like, it's not a movie we haven't covered, right? So if you only get to pick one, what is it?
Tony, you go first. So I can have a little bit of time to think about it.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because if I'm honest, I've got 3 and I don't know which one to pick.
Well, you have to pick one. That's the point.
I know. That's why it makes it so hard.
What 3 are you considering?
So the top 3 at the moment, and I need to break it down, are Robocop, Blade Runner, and Escape from New York.
Okay.
You could only buy one.
Oh, The Thing. Shit. No. Do I like The Thing more than... Yeah, actually, no. I like The Thing more than Escape from New York.
See, I love Empire Strikes Back, but if I can only pick one movie, I think I'd pick The Thing. I fucking love that movie so much.
Fair enough. I'd go The Labyrinth. No hesitation.
Labyrinth. Alright, so you get Labyrinth, The Thing, and your choice?
Well, you've made it easier because you've eliminated one of my choices, because we're going to go with 3 choices here. So it's between Blade Runner and Robocop. What would be better? Fuck it, Robocop.
Robocop. Okay, that's the 3. If you haven't seen those 3 movies, Robocop, The Thing,
and Labyrinth.
And Labyrinth, then that's what you need to watch.
I feel like your choices, because actually every kids' film on this list was picked by Mark, and I feel that says something about him.
Yeah, and? What's wrong with that?
I don't mean that in a negative way. I'm just saying it means he's clearly a child at heart. Whereas anything that's like hyper violent is almost certainly picked by me and John.
I have kept track of because we all put our lists in of the films that we'd nominate for this separately. So there's several crossovers that were on multiple people's lists. And yeah, the hyper-violent ones were those ones, essentially.
I was going to say, was it just a case, Tony, though, like, I was like 12 years old, and when I went into the video store, I just seeked out those 18 labels, and I was like, Dad, that's the one I want.
You look at the stuff that's got, I want one-liners and people getting blown up,
Yeah, I mean, that's how you want to spend your Friday night, isn't it?
Still what I want from my movies. That's why I don't like a lot of modern telly, because there's not enough, like, cheesy one-liners and unnecessary violence. Actually, that's not fair, because a lot of, like, the really, really modern hyper-violent stuff that's really realistic, and I've never liked things like, I'm going to use a phrase that's going to upset people, torture porn. Things like Saw, or Hostel, and those kind of like horror movies where it's like people just getting tortured and things. Can't stand that sort of thing. Really hate it. But people getting aliened doesn't bother me at all. I think it's that level of fantasy.
We're going to link it all up to Warhammer because Mark is on the ball tonight.
Yeah, I do that shit. I'm prepared. What can I say?
Got the wrong font.
And he spelled glory.
Same font as last time.
It was the wrong font last time.
Yeah, well, you could have done this.
I made it. I did.
All right,
I used the proper Warhammer font, the old Warhammer font, not this modern rubbish new one.
Yeah. I just literally took the PowerPoint I used for the Imperial Knights one and just went straight over without changing it. So there we go.
Perfect.
Yeah. Hobby stuff, because that is ostensibly what this show is all about and all that sort of thing. So first up in the pile of glory is Tony.
I've basically done fuck all. You bugged me for a picture, and this is the nearest thing I've got to one.
What have you been doing fuck all?
Well, I'm trying to move house, and it's exam season, so I'm like mega busy at the moment. But I've been tickling away at my Thunderhawk. It's now red. I've blacked out areas. I'm a little bit further along than I was in this picture, but not hugely far along. The nearest kind of hobby stuff that I've been doing is I've been practicing my photography skills. So you'll notice that in this one, I've got the ship nicely in focus. And then I've got a lot of photography terms from like bokeh, like background. The background's out of focus to try and soften it.
Oh, yeah.
So...
Any particular reason why?
Apparently, like photographers like that shit.
Why you're doing this stuff?
Ostensibly because I want to be able to take better pictures of models and things, but it's also because we're doing a lot of filming lately. And that last video that we did, I did with filming the painting, it looks shit. So I need to improve the camera quality.
I think it's very good that you did your first video, though. So
yeah.
So
you got to start somewhere.
Proper camera set up, which are not, annoyingly overheated. And
if anyone wants to look back at my first videos on YouTube, they are so.
It's got an icon telling me it's overheating again. So.
Okay, so we may not have you for much longer.
Yep.
All right. What's next? Next we have John.
Yay!
With a picture of an army.
A battle-ready army. A complete battle-ready army. Everybody is based. Everybody.
This is what you've done in the last 2 weeks.
I know this has been like the last 5 years. No, I mean in the last 2 weeks we've thrown together some Death Company models. I did look. So 20 of the models in this army are not finished, but they are all battle-ready, and they all have 5. I think they all have like 5 or 6 colors in them. But you know how long it takes you if you want to do the details nicely on everything, and I do. So I guess over the next probably, I think it took me about 3 or 4 months to finish up my Terminators. So probably by the end of the year, this will be another completely painted list. I think it'll, honestly, if I'm not over 10,000 points of Blood Angels now, I must be darn close. And you know what? With the new chapter approved, it's probably going to change everything, and I'll need to start a brand new army. And every time I get my armies painted, the rules change on me. So
this is the list you're taking to an event, yeah? This
is the list that I got to only practice with one time because my wife was sickly. with a virus, so I'm not going to take it to the event just because I feel like I only got one practice game with it.
Which is the tournament that
Voidhammer RTT2. It's the Saturday.
Andrew's running it. I think he said.
Yep. So I'm just going to run Mephiston. It's probably, if I lose, I can blame it on Mephiston because he's swingy. But I just don't have enough experience playing with this list. I think it's a good list. I do like it. But I'd rather run something that I've run 10 times before. So literally the only difference is we'll lose the Priest and we'll lose a couple of Infernal Pistols and we'll bring Mephiston back.
Fair enough. And is that this weekend?
Yes, yes. So I guess by the time this airs, that tournament will be out.
How are you feeling about it?
It's weird. I feel like 6 months for the chapter approved books, in my opinion, it's not long enough. Like, I only play one game a week. There was 9 new missions, so
only
like
one game a week is a lot more than a lot of people get to play.
Yeah, and I missed a few weeks, you know, like because I can only do it when my wife's fitting well, and so let's say I played like 24 games, if it was out for 6 months. So there was 9 new missions. So arguably, some of those missions I've only played twice. So I don't know if I feel like I know the maps very well. I don't know if 6 months feels long enough to someone that's like. Do you think
I think that was a fucking rip off that book anyway. I'm still bitter that we bought those.
Yeah.
And we're going to buy the new ones.
I was actually going to have, like, you guys are saying like one game a week is more than some people. Like, like what would you class as like a casual competitive player? Someone who wants to be competitive but is casual. Is that one game a week? Is that 2 games?
I'd
I think, if you're trying to be competitive, you've got to play really one game a week to minimum.
So I'm borderline on the minimum, but I've got kids. I don't know how I could do any more than that.
That's the thing. We're all getting older. I used to play like every day, near enough, and now if I get a game in a week, I'm feeling pretty happy about it. I tend to go through phases. Like I might have a weekend where I play a lot of games, but then because the other thing that I've done a lot more recently over the last, actually, over 9th is I've played a lot more games that are smaller points values. Because I can play 2 or 3 games at 1,000 points.
You get them done and wrapped up, and
or even more than that if I'm playing 500 points. Or I can
Before
play one game at 2,000 points. So I can play more people and more opponents and try out more stuff. I know the games are different at those different levels, but I'm quite enjoying playing lots of small games rather than a few big ones.
Yeah, it's why I'm sort of erring towards playing small games of Adeptus Titanicus, playing Aeronautica, playing Blood Bowl 7s, playing 1,000 points 40k for similar reasons to yourself.
We've got a big because we try and as a group play one like mega thing. So we did this the big old game with all the knights and the Forge World crazy shit earlier this year, and we've started planning next year's, and we're going to do Necromunda.
Cool,
excellent. We're going to do a weekend long Necromunda kind of. Not tournament, but like a little mini campaign thing.
Yeah, with a big board full of terrain and
we've already started building the boards.
Wow.
People have already started commissioning me to paint gangs.
That sounds really cool.
And I'm quite looking forward to that. So, yeah, Necromunda's in my future for that.
Excellent.
Cool. Well, I mean, I'm happy to have a battle ready army. I'm not sure I like a 6 monthly cycle and chapter approved.
No, I don't like it. It's too.
I could play 4 games a week when I didn't have kids, but with kids you can do 1 game a week.
No, it's totally fair. I'm kind of torn. I like the idea that the meta doesn't become stale and that things get mixed up a lot more than they used to. I'm not sure whether I think the ideal time cycle should be 9 months or a year, but I agree with you. I think 6 months is too short. I think it's cynically a massive cash grab on GW's part because they're a profit-driven company.
Make a big pile of
try
cash
and get you to buy more stuff from more books they release more often, and then you change your army, you buy more models and all this kind of thing. And I'm not a fan. I like that they're changing it. I like that the meta doesn't stay stale. I like that you have to keep thinking things and mixing it up. I don't know what it takes to do that.
I don't mind the points changes even. It's the going out and have to buy yet another book. And it's so wasteful to put my current Necromunda, whatever it is, in the bin because 6 months later it's worthless. It's landfill.
I agree with that. I'm slightly happier that this new chapter proof book is about a third cheaper than the previous one.
Yeah,
if they
but
weren't
it's got
doing
half
that,
the
I'd
amount
be
of stuff
more
as the
pissed
previous
off.
one, which
It's
had 2/3 of the amount of stuff.
in
For the
terms
one
of
before
content.
that.
Actually, it's got more than the last one.
It
It doesn't have a second book with all the
In
points.
terms of raw page count, that's right. It doesn't.
And it doesn't have the core rules like the first
It
one.
does. It does.
Oh, they brought that back, have they?
The new one does, yeah.
Oh, I'm glad about that because I still keep the original one, the first one that came out, because it's just a handy little format core rules book.
So I eBayed a tiny little core rules that you get in the new starter sets for 20 quid for just that reason. So I don't have to carry around the fucking great big huge rule book.
Yeah.
I just have the smaller rule book in.
It's a big old chunky book, isn't it? If you got a lot of stuff to carry, it's annoying.
But the core rules that you get in the starter set also contains detachments. It contains Crusade. It contains all the stuff that aren't in that chapter approved, basically. That is also occasionally useful. For my stuff, I've got a 1,000-point game coming up in August that I've been getting ready for.
They don't look very painted, Mark.
They're not painted, but they're the ones on my work in progress pile going towards that I need to finish and have made some starts on towards for this 1,000-point tournament. So
is that a Venerable Dreadnought?
That's a Vendread, yeah, with lasers and missiles, 3 snipers, 3 bikes, 5 Sangard, and 5 Death Company Intercessors.
Is that 1,000 points?
No, it's part of 1,000 points. The other bits of it are already painted and finished. These are the ones I need to work on towards it.
I love the Doorbringers.
Oh, they're so good.
So much money.
So expensive, though.
I really want to have enough to make 3 units of 7 Sangard out of Dawnbringers, but oh my god, that's going to cost.
You're going to need a new mortgage.
Yeah. They've gone up from 45 or 50 quid for a unit of 5 to like 65 quid for a unit of 5 now, and it's fucking ridiculous.
The whole world's gone to shit with this inflation.
Yeah, it really has.
Yep,
so many things.
But we're not going to dwell on that because we're a happy, fun podcast about toy soldiers and 80s movies today.
And 80s movies, yeah. And that was cool doing something different. So thank you so much for this Patreon suggestion. We really do appreciate it. I enjoyed it. I would like to do more different things as well. And
if it was funny, if you got value out of it, if you like what we're doing and you want to see more of this stuff, consider backing us on Patreon. Chuck us a few quid every month to fund our efforts in entertaining you every couple of weeks. It's be very much appreciated.
And we just did open our Element Games affiliate account. So if you are buying anything in the UK from Element, please find the link. It should be up above this
video. Buy through there does help us out quite a lot. Because
all this goes to supporting us to give us material to work on all our other episodes, and we've just done this episode as a Patreon request. If you join us as a Patreon and you want to request us to cover something, chuck us it. We'll see if we can do it for you.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a couple of ideas for what's coming next, but it's probably going to go up in the air a bit based around the new chapter proved coming imminently. So we'll see what the schedule's going to change to, and
we'll definitely cover the new chapter approved, I think, right?
In one format or another. It's probably going to be the next video one way or another, just not sure when.
Yes. So enjoy this video. Keep an eye on the community tab. We'll let you know when we are going to do the chapter approved thing.
Tell us what you thought. Click the like button if you're feeling nice. Subscribe if you haven't.
All the usual stuff.
All the usual stuff.
Everybody asks you to do.
And chapter approved, it might be a live stream, right?
It might be a live stream.
Yeah. It might be a live stream. We haven't done one of those for a little while.
It's true. The last time we did one was around the last one, so it might be a live stream.
Cool. So and my camera's cut out, so I think that's saying something.
Yeah. You can take your eye patch off again.
Everybody for watching. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you again in a couple of weeks. Cheers.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye.
There can be only one.